Hey there, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I have some more stories for you. Let me know what time it is for you right now, and let's start with the first story right away.
Story 1. I'm falling out of love with my wife because she abandoned her career to be a stay-at-home mom, yet I'm still the one doing most of the work while working a full-time job because she's been mostly staying on the couch. Posted by you/constant_barnacle992. I, 43M, try my best to provide for my wife, 38F, and our 2 kids, ages 3 and 5, as well as my mother-in-law, and I'd like to think I'm doing a decent job. Over the years, I've worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's degree and recently earn a master's in a STEM-related field, but I also worked 2 full-time jobs while completing my second bachelor's and put my wife through school as well. She completed a degree that could allow her to make good money, around 60-70K a year, in a healthcare field that always has job opportunities. However, with the birth of our 2 kids, she has since given up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's. Once I completed it and our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich but do okay for a single-income family of 4, a little north of 150K base plus bonuses. Over the past year, life has been overwhelming for my wife, so even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with one child while the other is in school. My day starts every morning around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I get the house ready for the day before the nanny arrives at 8 a.m., get our oldest up and ready for school, make breakfast, plan out my day, drop our oldest off, and get back home in time to let the nanny in. My most recent task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% working from home. While this is nice, I'm busy in meetings all day, as my role involves managing teams on a global scale and overseeing industry projects. For the past month and a half, I've realized that, as much as my wife says her life at home is stressful, her day doesn't actually start until 10 a.m. After a week or so of working from home, I asked my mother-in-law and the nanny if this had always been the case, and they both responded more or less the same, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up, cooks, and then scrolls through her phone or shops from home, which brings me to my gripe. I'm glad I'm able to provide her with this kind of life since we both grew up with limited means. I understand the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, and the fact that I'm probably a crappy husband. But for what it's worth, everything is taken care of, and then some. I manage the household finances. She claims she was too busy to do so, pay all the household bills, pay my own personal bills, pay her bills, track and handle all the upkeep of our house, appliances, cars, pets, etc., and I also help pay for my mother-in-law's medical bills and car note. But apparently, my life is on easy street compared to hers. I can't decompress to her because it seems like she always feels the need to one-up me. I had a bad day, but she had it worse because I'm lucky I got to go away and work. My feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, which is nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 or so years, I've been told I ruined her life, her opportunities, etc., but when I remind her of what she says, she denies it and dodges accountability. My mother-in-law has pulled me aside and said she's noticed a change in both me and my wife. I have a greater attachment to my kids, and hell, I've hugged the dog and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I am in emotional survival mode, as I'm one step from moving up the career ladder and one step away from finding love and comfort at the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I'm sure I'll be hearing from the manly men of Reddit about how I'm simping, but I'm not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize, aside from my kids, appreciates and loves me for what I do. I'm sure I'll hear from the stay-at-home moms of Reddit, which is fine. I grew up in a single-parent household with my mother. It's not easy, and honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny Monday through Friday, for one toddler while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me she's having the typical stay-at-home mom experience? Because neither my friends nor colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I'm sure the masses of holier-than-thou Redditors will consider this a poorly written fanfic, but it is what it is. Edit. Thank you for the replies. To add more context, I've never cheated. I do work in an industry with a large female population, but I'm literally an open book when it comes to work. I name colleagues and staff under me, and she has access to my work agendas and correspondence if she really wanted to snoop. That said, she still doesn't know exactly what I do for a living at this time. As a whole family, including her parents and mine, we have tried to get her to go to therapy, but she refuses or skirts around the issue. Aside from coming from a single mother household, my biological dad was present in my life. She, on the other hand, has had both parents in a reportedly monogamous marriage for over 40 years. I have tried to talk to her about everything, including my own feelings, but again, one-upmanship tends to be the trend here. I was asked what I'm getting out of the marriage. Now, aside from my 2 beautiful kids, I've been asking myself that same question. We have a near non-existent sex life, mainly since last year. I always figured maybe it's part of depression or whatever she may be going through, or maybe I'm just not attractive enough or horrible in bed because of my health conditions. I'm not some supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity do knock, and I can still perform. However, I never give in because, as cliche as it sounds, I honestly love my wife and want to be with only her. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house, myself, the kids, my mother-in-law, and even the nanny. Aside from breakfast, she prepares all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small, simple breakfast in case they don't like what the school serves that morning. She does the laundry for both kids and herself but seldom folds and puts it away. I typically do my own, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they're work clothes. She does keep track of our pantry and fridge, but after making the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything, if not delivered. She cleans our bathrooms and house about 50% of the time, while the other 50% is handled by either my mother-in-law, myself, or sometimes the nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. Prior to hiring a nanny, my mother-in-law was the main help for my wife until she developed unexpected medical needs. So I opted to hire a nanny to assist both of them, especially when my mother-in-law is undergoing treatments and recovering. Update 2 weeks later. Not sure if anyone will read this, but thank you to those who have reached out and chit-chatted. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I'd just update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend, and she read it along with all the comments. Long story short, we argued, she left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say that aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. Edit. Just need to add, this post got bigger than I expected for a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments. Nonetheless, thank you for the comments and DMs, and even more so for the offers to let me ruin your life, lol. It's been the highlight of my day/night as I sit here drinking with my dog while everyone else is asleep. It feels depressingly sad that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. My apologies in advance as I try to keep this as vague as possible. Second update 1 month later. I just wanted to update those who have been kind enough to check in via DM and comments. Apologies in advance for the lengthy post. It's a bit of irony and coincidence that I'm making a follow-up to the update I posted on May 6, 2024, during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but I could really use another outlet outside of my therapist. My apologies if this isn't the storybook ending or the destruction of a relationship that some were hoping for. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully, so was her whole family, including said sister. Not only would it have been unfair to our kids to be swept away into a home that isn't theirs, but it would have also placed financial and housing stress on the rest of her family, considering she doesn't work and her sister and her family, husband and 3 kids, live with their dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week away, I guess she cooled off, so she just decided it would be fine to walk in the door with her bags as if she had just come back from Target. She came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I was on a conference call with my team. I couldn't just jump off, as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her because, once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment, all I could do was look at her and shake my head. My mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her not to bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night, after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink, as I had been doing for the past few nights, and my wife came in. We talked. We argued. We cried. We drank. One thing led to another, and we ended up in bed. I wish I could say that was our way of making up, but the next sobering morning, as we lay there, she went on about how hard it was for her while she was gone. Literally, it was all about her struggle staying at her family's house, in her old room, with her dad and her sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here, to do this and that, to buy this or that, and not stress as much as they did. How easy my life and everyone else's in our family are compared to hers, even though we had similar upbringings. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then. This past week, I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out, but I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties about life and work in general. Wife, well, do you know how hard this all is for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. Me, so when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, screw me, right? I just need to get over it? Wife, we all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but that wasn't the woman I married, the one I vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant from her. I've been sleeping in my office, on the couch, or with my kids in their bed after putting either one of them to sleep. Still, nothing changes. She continues starting her day at 10 a.m., sitting on her phone, talking to her mom groups between cooking meals, while the kids are in both my mother-in-law's and the nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt anything ever will. Sadly, I think that even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel any different. When my wife was gone, the days felt like any other, except with a little more takeout than usual. My biggest fear isn't just losing my wife, it's losing my kids in the process. So, I guess it's sad to say that the grand finale to my story, like for a lot of men and some women I've talked to here, is that I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence. Edit. First off, thank you for all the comments and DMs. Some context and clarification. Admittedly, my post was emotionally charged since I typed it up after another argument. Post-birth, our kids' pediatrician's office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms, and during both instances, she scored pretty high and was advised to see a therapist. With our second child, she scored significantly higher, and we, or I should say I, made an effort to get her the help she needed. She refused, so my mother-in-law and a nanny stepped in for support. I know what people will say or think, but this is one of the reasons I am not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. I also know that silently suffering, in both the near and long run, will not contribute to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to ripping off a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first but that the pain will fade. However, I'd rather try to spare my kids from thinking that their parents ended up hating each other because of them or something along those lines. I've told a few people I talked to in DM since my last post a little more about my personal life. Prior to my promotion, I was a PM managing teams and budgets, so out of habit, I planned for a lot of what-ifs. That being said, I've made several contingency plans in case things, unfortunately, go south. So yes, I have talked to a lawyer, 3, actually. Know our rights and what each of us is entitled to. Have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it. Know what I want and am willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but also have a plan in case we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up. So while I am venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to maintain the norm our kids know, ensure my mother-in-law's treatments go uninterrupted, and, of course, hold on to the hope that my wife will finally be open to giving therapy a shot so we can climb together to a better place. Thank you all again. Third update 1 month later. I'm done. My wife said I don't do anything and that I'm not worth crap in front of the therapist and family at our Father's Day dinner. She got served. Now she's mad. She's trying to act perfect, and I'm just waiting while taking care of my family, my kids, my mom, and my mother-in-law. Secondly, to clear up some confusion, I did not earn 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's while working 2 jobs at the same time, as some readers are assuming. I earned my first bachelor's degree in the early 2000s. Years later, I earned my second bachelor's degree online, taking 2 classes per semester, while working 2 full-time jobs, one at a hospital, 36-48 schedule, and the other at a big box store, 32 to 40 hours spread across 7 days a week. I did this to pay for both my and my wife's tuition because she decided to go back to school before we had kids. After graduating with my second bachelor's degree and entering the industry I work in now, I was able to work just 1 job and earn my master's. So no, I did not earn 3 degrees at the same time or in close succession. And I'm honestly surprised I even have to spell this out, as working 2 jobs while going to school isn't that uncommon, or at least that's what I thought. My wife chooses not to work. She technically has a job, but she works so little that we forget she even has one. For example, she worked one day, 8 hours, about 4 to 5 months ago on a Tuesday. That's how little she works. Her job and manager are really supportive, flex PRN model, and provide her with a list of days they need coverage, allowing her to pick up shifts if she wants to. While she has the opportunity to work more, she only does the bare minimum to keep her license active. Meanwhile, she complains to our family that her career is on hold for one reason or another, even though she has the option to work more if she chooses to. All things considered, she has a strong support system around her, no matter what decision she makes. Our family, her job, and I have made multiple offers and taken many steps to open the door for her to return to work, hiring a nanny, having her mother move in to help, me working from home, her incredibly flexible PRN schedule, etc. Yet here we are. I am and have been in therapy for myself already. Aside from what I deal with at home, my work can be very debilitating in regard to my mental health as well as my physical health at times. Since I can't find the support I need mentally and physically at home with my wife, I've opted to attend therapy rather than seek comfort with someone outside the home or at the bottom of a bottle. I've tried to express this to my wife, and as mentioned in my previous post, she has a habit of one-upping me, and here we are. My in-laws are still married. Given the circumstances in our home, my mother-in-law moved in to help my wife, while my sister-in-law and her family moved back into their parents' house for their own reasons. My sister-in-law and her family can save money while getting back on their feet, and my wife and I benefit from mother-in-law's help, allowing us to keep a closer eye on her while she undergoes bi-monthly treatments. Based on questionnaires, my wife is highly suspected of having postpartum depression, along with a history of symptomatic OCD, ADHD, and other ailments that she has refused to get evaluated for or accept the results of over the years. I knew what I was getting into, and I loved and accepted my wife for these flaws, just as she accepted mine at the time. Spare me, or I don't feel sorry for you or pity. I am like every other man who fell in love and wanted to give my person the best of me and the best world I could offer, but again, here we are. There are a lot of manly men and Red Pill Nation guys out there complaining and saying I'm simping over my wife. While I respect your opinions and perspectives, I will outright say that if this situation only affected my life, I would have left a long time ago. As one Redditor once said in a past comment that stuck with me, I am the kind of person that will take a bullet for his kids. Maybe it was intended in a different context, but to protect my children from any harm, physically or mentally, I'll take the proverbial bullet if and when needed. I'd like to think other dads out there would respond to the duty to protect their children, and that's why I have endured as much as I have. For the time being, I would rather my wife use me as an outlet for her problems rather than our kids. Thank you all for the comments and for reaching out. I've met many strangers who have become great Reddit pen pals, and some have followed every step of this journey. I am surprised at how far this has gone, from other subreddits to other platforms and even YouTube. Love me, hate me, say it's all fake, no matter where you stand, thank you for all the constructive comments and DMs checking in. Our kids and I are going to be alright moving forward. Now for the update. This will be shorter than some expected, as there's not much to say other than to satiate the questions some of you may have had and give people the satisfaction of an I told you so moment on Reddit. After a hard push from our family via an intervention, my wife and I finally attempted marriage counseling. I'm sure many of you can guess how well that went: blame, tears, regrets, gaslighting, with a side of I am the reason her life is ruined and horrible. Again. Just this time, in front of a licensed therapist instead of Reddit or mom groups. In the end, everything the therapist suggested and noted went over her head and was ignored, as it went against the grain of her status quo. One thing worth mentioning was when the therapist asked if she could recall the last time she truly felt happy. Her response? About 12 years ago. Please note, 12 years ago, she was still in her 20s, childless, living with her ex, a vastly different time and position in life. I know it's petty of me, but if that's when she was last happy, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch for her to find that happiness again, considering her ex is still in the same apartment, job, and place in life that he was 12 years ago. Which is fine, if that's how you want to live life. I try not to judge. But in my 40s with kids, going clubbing 3 to 4 days a week is just not my jam anymore. And of course, I don't want my kids around a mom and company who drown themselves in White Claws. To add, I know some will ask, I know and can confirm she hasn't physically cheated on me, but I can't confirm if she has emotionally, if that's the right term. After that therapy session, I checked all her phone records and didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but I also didn't bother checking apps like Instagram or Snapchat. I know I'm probably boring, but shout out to all the Costco dads whose Sunday fun day includes making rounds with the kids for samples. The following weekend was Father's Day, and as expected, it wasn't that big of a celebration, much like it is for many dads out there. Our family got together for a barbecue and simple family time, while my wife treated it like any other day. Sleep in. Get up. Cook. Phone. Shop. Attempt to play with the kids. Phone. During the family barbecue, my wife said she felt ill, so she sat around most of the day while the rest of the family made the experience enjoyable. When everything was set up and everyone sat at the table, her parents, her sister's family, my mother, our kids, it was, admittedly, a great spread. Nothing extravagant, just a great meal for everyone. I was conversing with my brother-in-law about our kids' school Father's Day activities, and I assume my wife overheard when I mentioned that it was a little sad to see some kids sitting alone without their fathers during the breakfast with dad event I attended. She suddenly blurted out with a laugh loud enough for the whole room to hear, "It's not like you do anything anyway." I could have gone instead. At that moment, I turned red and was at a loss for words, sitting there processing what she had just said, while the dining room went dead silent. My mother-in-law broke the awkwardness and responded, "Well, maybe if you feel that way, one of you should divorce the other." My wife looked at her, confused that she would say that, then laughed mockingly in my direction. Pointing at me, she said, as if another woman would want a man like him. "Just look at you." The room remained silent. I was angry, heartbroken, confused, and embarrassed all at the same time. In typical manly fashion, I just nodded my head in silence, stood up, grabbed my keys, and got in my truck to go get a drink while trying to ignore the cries of the rest of the family and our kids telling me to stay. I don't know what was said or done while I was out of the house for the rest of Sunday because I couldn't bring myself to check our house cameras, but when I returned early Monday morning, the house had a completely different feel. As usual, I woke up around 6, got the house and our oldest ready for school drop-off, checked emails, checked messages, nothing out of the ordinary. As I was getting dressed to leave, my wife was in our bed, snoring. All I could do was look at her and think of what we had. And what we have now lost. I've decided. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I texted my lawyer that morning to move forward with serving her. Fast forward to last week, she was served at our home. Reminder to people, I had no choice but to be there because I work from home. She had what I guess you could call a mini meltdown and came into my office screaming, asking how I could do this to her. Her mother intervened, which was met with me supposedly turning her whole family against her. But I digress. I probably would have felt bad if it hadn't been immediately followed by the rest of her week acting as if she's been this active and attentive wife and mother for the past few years. Sure, people can say she's making an attempt, but she's made many attempts, and historically, we always fall back to where we've been. For those curious, I am aiming for full or at least majority custody of our kids. I already do, and will continue to, cover all the expenses for our kids, insurance, tuition, both of our kids will be attending private schools come fall, medical bills, etc. My mother-in-law has given me the courage and strength that helps supplement my own mother's support throughout this. Basically, she is the kind of mother and wife I had hoped my wife would have been to our kids and me. Out of respect for my mother-in-law, as well as per my own mother's shared wishes, I will continue to help oversee and contribute financial support if needed during her treatments. While some may feel I should cut her whole family off, I know the hardships placed on a family dealing with cancer and have dealt with it firsthand as both a family member and a care provider on both sides of the desk. All in all, I'm prepared to go to war if needed, but I just want a clean, no-fuss divorce. My wife has no alimony coming, so sorry to the Redditors and Mommy Gang Facebook groups saying she needs to divorce me first and get that sweet, sweet alimony money. 1. We live in a state that does not typically enforce alimony. 2. She has a means of gainful employment immediately. 3. To help curb any possible problems, I will cover her insurance and bills until either the divorce is finalized or she gains full employment. So that's that. I'm done and waiting for the steps to be taken for everything to be finalized. Sorry it wasn't as exciting of a story with plot twists as some may have hoped for, but that's life. Not sure I'll update this once it's all finalized, which probably won't be for a few more months, depending on whether we go to war or not. 4th update 7 months 2 weeks later. With respect to the subreddit, I guess I should get it off my chest that, as much as I don't want to care anymore, I still do to some degree. Thank you for all the comments, messages, and to the handful of people who have become Reddit pen pals throughout my journey in this matter. It took some time for me to provide an update, as adjusting to my new life, slowly cutting ties with the past, and moving forward for our children, family, and work have been my priorities. With that, I wanted to share an update for those who may have been curious. Since my last update, I've been under the scrutiny of our social circles and labeled with every typical toxic man/husband stereotype that Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram have to offer. As much as I hate the saying, I kind of understand the you know my name but not my story posts now. With that said, these strangers or alienated family and friends can take their opinions and go screw themselves because, in the end, if our kids are happy, healthy, and flourishing under my toxic household, what's it to you? The more important updates: we're divorced. I have majority custody, and even though my ex is now trying to be the present mother whenever her now busy schedule allows, it is too little too late. My mother-in-law continues to respond well to treatments, and my sister-in-law has now taken over where my ex was supposed to be in helping oversee her care. Post-divorce, I recently moved homes and jobs and accepted the next step forward career-wise, which my company has been kind enough to slowly transition me into, as leadership understands what I'm going through at home. Interestingly, it's amazing how common my story is among my colleagues and network. I am sad and happy to say I am now one of the newer members of the Fellowship of Divorce Directors and Execs. As sad as it may sound, it is nice to know that many understand and are willing to offer a high degree of support, advice, assistance, and guidance as needed. The divorce itself was quick, but it still had its sad and angry moments, and many people in my camp think my ex got away with robbery. But the fact that I was awarded majority custody and, per agreement, have our kids, almost, every day, knowing they're safe under my roof, is worth every cent. While I had no say or real concerns about how my ex moved forward with mediation as long as she agreed to the terms, I think the biggest slap in the face was how she delegated her boyfriend as someone to advise her throughout this process because his opinion is more important than any lawyer who isn't looking out for my best interest. At this point, the holidays were around the corner, and I didn't want this to disrupt the holidays for our kids and family. While I was prepared to go to court, my ex did not want to diminish her payout, and I just wanted things over and done with. I'll leave out the finer details of the terms, but in exchange for having majority custody and taking care of all expenses related to our children, I agreed to give her that lump sum she was aiming for, with no request for child support on my end. She kept all her tangible possessions, car, bags, clothes, jewelry, etc., and I had to sell the home, split the profits from the sale, foot the bill on taxes, and give her almost all our joint bank accounts after legal fees. And to top it off, laughably, she argued for rights to alimony, which she's not getting. As a PSA, don't rely on your legal advice from Facebook groups. In the end, I'd like to think that, overall, I'm a simple man. All I ever wanted was to get married, have a family, and provide. With that goal in mind, I somehow ended up in a position where my spouse had the choice to work or not, without having to worry about anything outside of our family. How it turned out this way, I can't pinpoint. I'll admit I'm a bit oblivious to what I did, but maybe it's my own fault, as some people have said, and I brought this onto myself. After the settlement, I downsized and closed on a smaller but spacious house for the three of us and our dog, with a separate generational suite in the backyard for my mother-in-law. She wanted to stay involved in our kids' care regardless of whether I was still married to her daughter. Honestly, I made sure that addition to the home was available for her because I hoped she would be willing and able to help until the kids were a little older. For what it's worth, it seems my ex has found her happiness. Luxury trips in a short time frame, a bigger place, a luxury high-rise studio, but still no space for our kids, her boyfriend's dream car, and a long list of expenses and shopping sprees. Some of it might have benefited our kids, but if so, only sparingly, as seen on her social media. She's rocking Cartier while our kids are sporting Carters. My ex visited our cute little house to see the kids and mother-in-law, complimenting my choice of home and the fact that I was able to maintain our household standard without her. I'm sure many will see the irony in that. I'm not entirely sure of her motives, or if I'm just reading too much into things, but she made comments about how stressful and expensive their living costs are: rent, utilities, cell and internet service, insurance, and even groceries. She seems surprised at how much it costs to feed herself, her boyfriend, and whoever else comes to their home. Strangely, she initially assumed the generational suite was meant for her to use whenever she had time and wanted to co-parent. She's even more tired now, struggling with her schedule, working a total of 48 hours a week and sometimes being forced into overtime. Her boyfriend works too, but I didn't ask for or care about the details. What I do care about is that I think she assumes I don't notice when she takes some of our usual household staples before leaving. Mainly bottles of soap she used to buy for our home, Sonicare replacement brush heads, other toiletries, a new, unopened bottle of Mountain Valley water from the fridge, and maybe I'm reading too much into it again, but sometimes I find some of the Instax pictures from the fridge missing. Usually, it's just pictures of the kids or my mother-in-law with the kids, but a few were of the four of us in the past. Although her White Claw fund takes precedence over their home's Charmin 2-ply supply, I try to be as accommodating as possible so that she can still be involved with our kids, allowing her to drop by our home whenever, if ever, she can. I still work primarily from home, so I'm always here, and keeping her in the loop about their activities and such. It was nice to see that she was able to make it to our youngest's first Christmas school assembly, where our eldest had speaking parts in the play before work. Later that week, I brought our kids to bring her a plate of food on Christmas Day at the hospital because she had to work over the holidays. I'd be lying if I said that didn't hurt or that I didn't feel uncomfortable with the stares and whispers from her coworkers while I waited for the kids to excitedly give her their presents and wish their mom a Merry Christmas. Even though she was trying to be welcoming, all I could do was say Merry Christmas and wave goodbye from a distance as we left. This past Christmas, despite the many blessings I have to be thankful for, it all felt so hollow at the same time. On New Year's Eve, I embraced my inner Pinterest dad, trying to make everything as festive and fun as possible. I copied ideas for doing a countdown at 9 p.m. for the kids with a balloon drop in our living room and popped some fireworks as soon as the sun set. On that note, I should mention that I rediscovered my love of cooking, something I did for years as a bachelor with my roommates, while managing the stress of a 4- and 6-year-old insisting that they're mini versions of Gordon Ramsay and can provide Michelin-level sous chef services. With the kids tucked away and asleep, I rang in the new year with my dog and a drink. Scrolling on my phone with the sounds of fireworks popping in the distance, I saw that my ex was living her best life in her new life, snap after snap after snap. So, I made a mental checklist for the end of 2024. Self-esteem, almost gone. Confidence, hanging by a thread. Ability to open up and trust anyone outside of my current inner circle and dog, non-existent. Hatred toward my ex and her newfound life, surprisingly gone. All I could do was laugh a little at the snap on my phone. She left me, she hurt me, but she did not destroy me. We're now two different people with two different lives, and I must move forward for the ones I owe it to. Other than the connection through our kids and some immediate family, we have no more ties, and I really have no interest in acting like I'm in my 20s and my 40s, spending half my paycheck on liquor just because it's Tuesday and New Year's Eve. Maybe I'm just boring, but I can, and only want to, focus on my kids and ensure that their lives and future are the best I can provide. I want to ensure the people and projects I oversee stay afloat and continue thriving in this economy. And last but not least, I want to make sure both my mother and mother-in-law are taken care of in the future. To the men out there, if you're in a similar situation, don't give up hope. But keep in mind, actions, records, and overall proof speak louder than your words. It's an uphill battle, but no man has to fight it alone. Plan, prepare, seek reputable counsel and advice, and, in the end, execute. As hard as it may be, stay focused and be as objective as possible in these times. Most importantly, follow through with what you say and promise to your kids. To the women, stay off social media and stop comparing your life to others. Just kidding. The first piece of advice applies to anyone, regardless of how you identify. I don't think I'll be updating anymore, but I do plan to keep this all just for my Reddit pen pals. So please feel free to say hi, it's nice to have new friends. Story 2. My niece called me a slur she learned from her dad, who thinks I'm not a real man for doing housework. I demanded an apology, they refused, so I stopped babysitting. Now my family is upset I'm not manning up over being called a F-word. Posted by you/fluffbuffer23. I, 29M, and my wife, 30F, have 2 kids, 5M and 3M. My wife works a full-time office job, while I work from home with extremely flexible hours. Basically, as long as I meet my deadlines, no one really cares how many hours it took or what time of day I work, outside of some Zoom meetings. My sister, 26F, let's call her Barb, and her husband, 30M, let's call him Nick, live nearby and work full-time jobs. They have a daughter, 5F, let's call her Tracy. Because of my comfortable work schedule, when our kids started going to daycare, we basically decided that I would drop off and pick up my niece from daycare alongside my own kids. I didn't really mind, and I thought it was great for my kids to spend time with their cousin. I get along with Tracy as well and always thought I was her cool uncle. She's a sweet kid and usually well behaved. So anyway, most days I bring her and my kids back to our house, make them snacks or dinner, and in the afternoon or evening, my sister comes to pick them up. A few days ago, the 5-year-olds were watching Bluey on the TV while I was preparing snacks with my 3-year-old, and I suddenly heard yelling. I rushed over to see what was happening, and my son was yelling at Tracy, "My dad's not a girl," while my niece yelled back, he's a F-word. That's like a girl. The word is different in my language, but the meaning holds, as does the distinction between using it versus simply addressing a gay person. I was kind of in shock at first, but I turned off the TV and sat her down to explain that this is a very bad word and we shouldn't call people that. I also explained that, regardless, I'm not a girl. Because this is a bad word, I told her she should apologize to me because we don't act mean to each other in this family, and that if I hear it again, I'm going to talk to her parents, and she'll get in trouble. She said she wouldn't get in trouble because that's what her dad called me, and he's not in trouble. I was stunned. I told her that regardless of what her dad said, it's a very bad word and she's not to use it with me or in my presence, and that she should apologize regardless because it hurt my feelings. She did apologize because she's a really good kid. We talked some more, and I prodded her about other things her parents said. From what I gathered, getting info out of a 5-year-old being obviously a difficult and unreliable process, Nick, my brother-in-law, told my sister in Tracy's presence that men shouldn't be sitting at home all day doing childcare, that cooking is a woman's duty, as is cleaning, and really most of the things I do around my house. He said I'm a girl. I interpret this as not really a man, because I do housework and my wife earns more money than I do. I explained to Tracy as best I could that men and women can work from an office or from home, and that my wife or Barb working long hours from the office doesn't make them men, and vice versa. I didn't dwell on it with her since it's not really her fault. I didn't immediately bring it up with my sister because I figured it would be a difficult conversation, and I didn't want to have it in front of the kids. I also wanted to talk it out with my wife first. I talked to my wife that evening, and she seemed really upset as well. I told her that I think I should demand an apology from Nick and my sister, and she agreed. I called my sister and told her what happened. She said that it's just a word and I'm blowing it out of proportion, and obviously Nick doesn't dislike me. I said I don't care whether he does or doesn't dislike me, he is talking crap about me behind my back to my niece and to her, and she is apparently very chill about this rather than standing up for me. She said that's how Nick is, and I should stop being a drama queen. I told her to screw off, and if that's how she felt, she could pick up her own child from daycare, and I hung up. I know it was really short notice and rude, but I really felt like I was being disrespected by people I've done so much for over the years, and they are my family. My wife said she understood and that I shouldn't back down until I at least get a proper apology. The next 2 days were a weekend, and there was no daycare. I assumed there would be calls or texts from Barb, but there was nothing. In fact, the suspicious lack of messages or calls made me think she didn't take my words seriously, which actually made me angrier. The calls did come when it was time to pick up Tracy for daycare, and I, obviously, didn't come. I dropped my own kids off and didn't even answer for a while. I know it was petty, but I had been stewing for 2 days and figured letting Barb stew for a few hours seemed really appropriate and felt really good. Around noon, when she called again, I did pick up. I was going to smugly tell her that I was ready for my apology and we could put it behind us, but I didn't get the chance. Instead, she went off on me about how I was irresponsible and flaked, and she was so late for work because of me. I told you I wasn't going to pick her up. You had 2 days to make arrangements. She kept yelling at me, so I hung up again. She kept calling and sending texts about picking Tracy up from daycare, to which I said I would not, then stopped replying. When I came to pick my kids up, Tracy expected me to take her as well. I didn't, which was really rough on both of us. I know it's not her fault, she's 5, and she suddenly doesn't get to come over to our place to play and have snacks, but at the same time, I didn't want to just let this thing go. I felt like I deserved an apology, and still do, So I explained that her mom and I were fighting, but I would pick her up again when we worked it out. She obviously didn't take it well, because she's 5, but I apologized, took my kids, and left. A bit later, I got a call from my mom. Barb roped her into picking up Tracy, but my mom is disabled, so she was having a really hard time with Tracy. She asked me why I was being mean to Barb. I told her everything, expecting her to take my side, but instead, she also pulled a "you know how Nick is." I replied that the more I realize how Nick is, the less I like it, and if he thinks all this crap in general and about me specifically, I sure as hell am not going to be doing free labor for him. She said I was blowing this all out of proportion, and I told her I wasn't the one doing it, because all I asked for was an effing apology, and everyone else seemed to prefer all this drama over just giving it to me. She said I should just be the bigger man and not let it get to me. I told her I was done and to have fun with Tracy. That evening, I got a call from Nick himself, which I hesitated to answer, but I chose to on the off chance that I was actually about to get an apology. Nope. Apparently, my behavior is causing Barb great distress, and he wanted to know how I could do this to my own sister. I told him that since we're family, how could he talk crap about me to his kid, whom I take care of daily? He said he was only joking and it was all in good fun. I told him it was neither good nor fun for me, and I wanted my apology. He blew up on me, telling me I was a F-word and couldn't take a joke, and called me a hysterical little girl. I told him to screw off, that I was done with him, and hung up. This led to a bunch of calls from Barb and my mom, which I didn't answer. Barb texted me that it wasn't fair for Tracy to pay the price for me being petty, and I told her it wasn't fair for Tracy to pay the price for her parents being ungrateful pieces of crap. She yelled at me about how she was going to lose her job and I was being cruel to her and to mom. I told her I was done, and unless her next message was an apology, I would block her number. It wasn't, so I blocked her. For the past few days, my mom has been picking up Tracy, and it's been really rough seeing her in daycare and explaining that grandma's going to pick her up, which she hates. She tells me she isn't having fun with grandma and wants to come over to our place, and it's breaking my heart. But at the same time, I've never received a single apology from anyone but the 5-year-old, and I feel like letting this go would be telling my family that it's okay to ignore my boundaries. At the same time, I love my niece, and I don't want to traumatize her or have her resent me. She is a good kid, and none of this is her fault. What do I do? Edit. Holy crap, you guys. The post has barely been up for 4 hours, and I'm already so grateful for all your support and advice. The idea of Nick actually wanting Barb to quit her job is not something I had considered, but now I think it might actually have some merit, and it makes me very worried for her. At the same time, I can't really do much until she at least acknowledges that that's just how Nick is, so stop overreacting isn't going to fly with me. I also assume it's only a matter of time before my mom is no longer an option. She's already struggling, so I hope I get a chance to talk to Barb about it, ideally because she sees my point of view, but I'll settle for her being desperate. I don't know what sort of childcare they'll be able to afford. They took out a large mortgage on a house they can barely afford. I will also make sure to emphasize to Tracy that I love her and none of this is her fault. Thank you all. Update 1 day later. Alright, so I posted this yesterday and was genuinely overwhelmed by the comments, advice, and support. I'd like to thank everyone for it and feel this warrants an update. Just to clarify a few things. My dad died from a heart attack 2 years ago, which came as no surprise because he smoked a lot and lived a pretty unhealthy life. It wasn't his first heart attack either. He was a great grandpa and a great dad, right up to the end. But his death left my mom alone, and she doesn't work. My mom has multiple sclerosis, which is mostly steady but slowly gets worse over time and flares up occasionally. It's made worse by stress, which my mom is dealing with now. A flare-up often means she doesn't quite get back to the level she was at before, so we mostly try to keep her stress-free. My dad had life insurance, so her house is paid off, and she has a little money. However, there's also a caretaker who comes over 3 times a week to clean, cook, shop, etc., which she can't afford, so my wife and I pay for it. As I mentioned in a comment on the original post, my wife and I are probably doing better financially than Barb and Nick. They have a fancy house and fancy cars, but they also have a mortgage and loans. The great response I got made me think about all this again. I thought about how I could stand my ground without giving up on Tracy altogether and realized there was no perfect solution. I had to settle on something. I took the day off work because I just needed to process and deal with everything. One comment on the original post really got to me, about how someone in Tracy's place would feel, and I just can't do that to her now. I know this isn't the update some of you wanted, but I just can't. I love her like she's one of my own, and my kids do as well. It's not her fault. I unblocked my sister because, obviously, if I'm going to be interacting with her child, she needs to be able to reach me. I talked to my mom during the day, and she was, again, distraught about having to pick Tracy up, which is pretty hard on her. I told her I was willing to do it, but I was coming over and she'd have to hear me out. She agreed. I talked to her for a long time, avoiding snark and lashing out this time, and just explained that how serious Nick was, or how he is, doesn't matter. I used the rocking the boat analogy someone linked to in the comments and further stressed my point by saying that it shouldn't matter if I was justified or not in getting upset. I'm her child, and if something upset me, it at least warrants giving me the benefit of the doubt before siding against me. Eventually, it seemed to sink in. She apologized, and we hugged it out. I think she got it. She's not a very confrontational person and generally really tries to keep the peace, but this time she went about it the wrong way. I'm not saying I'm not mad, but she's my mom, and she apologized. I explained to her that she shouldn't be covering for me because that means I have no leg to stand on when confronting Nick and Barb. She was receptive to this. I texted my sister that we needed to talk, and I'd drop Tracy off at their place tonight, to which I got a stoic thumbs up. I picked Tracy up from daycare today, and she was overjoyed. She was actually a little possessive of me, staying by my side all afternoon instead of running off to play. It was cute but also made me feel bad because that's the impact of me not picking her up. I explained to her as best I could that she's not in trouble, I'm not angry with her, but I am angry with her parents and we need to work that out. I promised to do my best not to stop picking her up again, which made her really happy. I dropped her off in the evening, and once she was in bed, I sat down to talk with Barb and Nick. I told them flat out that Mom wasn't going to be covering for them anymore, and if they didn't let me finish what I had to say, I'd get up and leave, and they could find new arrangements for Tracy. I didn't mean it, but they didn't need to know that. They weren't happy, but they were willing to listen, so that's progress, or at least the threat worked. I explained that this was the situation now. I don't need them to mean their apology, but I sure as hell was going to need one. This was about principle now. I've spent years taking care of their child, and if they wanted to be pricks, I wasn't going to do it for free. So this is how it goes now. 1. I am no longer going to be dropping her off in the mornings until further notice. There was no excuse for the way Nick acted, and it needs to have some lasting impact. 2. I'm no longer going to be paying for family outings and vacations. It's a man's job to support his family, so good luck with that. The exception is Tracy, she is always welcome. 3. If I hear any more BS being talked about me behind my back, I'm going to start charging them for my services. My plan was to dangle the thing they want, childcare. Restore it, but at the same time enforce some repercussions and the threat of things getting hard for them again. I also laid it on pretty thick about how I'm a man and obviously have my pride, and I can't have that disrespected, even by my own family. I don't really consider Nick family, but figured he wouldn't catch on. Nick was not happy about this, and my sister had to take him outside to talk it out without me. Eventually, they agreed to it, and I got my, admittedly half-hearted, apology. I could probably press it further, but I didn't want to risk having to either back down or hurt Tracy again, so I took it. There were no tears and no warm hugs, but I got to walk away with what I wanted, giving them some payback without giving up my time with Tracy. I still plan to talk to my sister alone about her relationship with Nick and how she sees me, but I figure I should let things calm down a bit before doing so. I know this isn't the resolution some, maybe most, of you wanted, but at the end of the day, I need to find a solution I can live with, and for me, this is it. I'll update if anything changes. Relevant comments. Commenter. You were paying for their family vacations? Damn. Ops response. I thought I was paying for our family vacations, but honestly, since my wife makes more than me and is primarily in charge of our finances, she could be considered the one paying. Her income essentially keeps us housed and fed, while my salary serves as the fun fund. She was always very excited about this because she doesn't have much family remaining. Having Barb, Nick, and Tracy, along with her sisters, made her feel like she had a big family. She felt this justified the expense and made her genuinely happy. Obviously, she is now furious with them. I don't think either of us will feel comfortable paying for them again, and they probably can't afford to come along. I do hope we will still get to bring Tracy, at least. Second update 3 months later. These past few months, things have been tense, but okay. I haven't gone back on my word about dropping her off and haven't been paying for meals or anything, really. Also, having realized what sort of man Nick is, I've been gently trying to get some alone time with my sister and ask her some questions about their relationship. Has he been isolating her? Is she financially dependent on him? Can she go out with her friends? How jealous does he get? Some of her answers made me a little uncomfortable, but I can't really force her into anything. I'm not trying to excuse the way she treated me, but I also think she's in a bad situation herself, and I don't want her to become more isolated than she already is. So, I'm gently trying to guide her down the right path, dropping hints like, isn't it like what your really bad ex used to do, and the like. I don't think she quite realizes how deep into this she is, but I also know from past experience that forcing her into anything will mostly cause her to pull away and become more stubborn. So, I'm trying to guide her to the right conclusion gently while making sure she knows she has a place to go and someone to support her if she ever chooses to break things off. Nick hasn't really been anything with me. I don't think his feelings about me have changed much, but he's basically avoiding interacting with me and has to work a lot when we get together as a family, which I think might be the best outcome for everyone involved. Tracy has been sweet. She's slowly learning to read alongside my oldest and still enjoys bad words. We just use less mean bad words now. Hoop has been a hit. She's now a big fan of the Tom Carty song Have You Checked Your Butthole? We've been pretty good about making clear the difference between rude words and hurtful words. Over the holidays, we went on a trip. At first, Barb and Nick were probably shocked that I was serious when I said they were welcome to join us, but I wasn't paying for anyone but Tracy if they chose to send her along. I talked it over with Barb, leaving it up to her how to convey that to Nick, who, as stated, was avoiding me. I assume he didn't take it well, but I don't really have a way of knowing for sure. Barb, for her part, tried doubling down, trying to get me to cave, but I stood my ground. I said I wasn't paying for things, and I meant it. I explained, again, that this wasn't about a specific trip but about the fact that I used to believe they genuinely and unconditionally loved me, and that is just no longer the case. It's not something I can just unfeel. I need this to feel like I am standing up for myself, and she can choose to respect my feelings and my decision or be angry, but I won't back down on this. The only choice that is up to her is whether to come on her own dime or not and whether to send Tracy along with us if she chooses not to come. She ended up sending her along, and we had a blast. My wife seems much relieved to no longer have to put up with Nick as often. She apparently had him pegged from the get-go but wanted me to come to my own conclusions and was hoping he wasn't as bad as he initially seemed to her. She's glad I'm standing up for myself and that we still get to hang out with Tracy. I still hope someday Barb comes to her senses about her situation, and I will fully support her if she does, despite not quite being over what she either thought about me or at least didn't stand up for me to Nick about. But she's still my family. Regardless, thank you to everyone for your support and advice. Relevant comments. Commenter. Op is a better person than I am. I would not be giving them free daycare after all the crap talking and doubling down. Nick is a real piece of work. On one hand, he's challenging Op's manliness, on the other hand, he's accepting free daycare and vacations from a man he doesn't respect because he has overextended himself with a big house and fancy cars. Commenter 2. I don't know. I mean, Op loves this little girl and knows she is otherwise not well taken care of. He saw her every day that she wasn't with him because he still picked up his own kids and watched this little baby break down daily because of how much she loves and misses him. That's heartbreaking. I do think I would try to be there for my niece as much as possible, especially if I believed her parents were a bad influence and knew she was otherwise not well cared for. I completely understand anyone who chooses not to provide care for the girl anymore. But at the same time, I understand why he does it, for the little girl, not her jerk parents. Story 3. Op finds out his entire life has been a lie when his partner does an ancestry test and finds out his granddad is his real father. Posted by u/Beastbramley. Op made a post in r/raised by narcissists that was titled, "My mum went from normal to narcissist in an hour." This weekend, I found out that my mum is not a normal mother, she is a narcissist or maybe even a full-blown sociopath. For you to understand the full ramifications of what she told me, I will go into my backstory. My mum, my grandparents, and I all lived together until I was 6. My granddad is my mum's stepdad, however, he was always family to me, and I never considered him a step-grandparent. When my mum was 30, she had me. My dad was never in the picture. I was told he was a married man whom my mum was seeing. One day, he turned around and said he didn't want to see her anymore and wanted to try to make his relationship with his wife work for the sake of his kids. He vanished, and my mum never saw him again. Soon after, she found out she was pregnant. She decided not to tell her parents the man's name and wouldn't tell him unless he called her, as she felt it wasn't her place to destroy a family. She also refused to put a name on the birth certificate. My grandparents helped her through the pregnancy. When I was 5, my mum met Chris, my stepdad, and we moved into a separate house. Chris had his quirks. He was nice but didn't want to be a dad, yet my mum changed all her parenting ideals to match his strictness, an odd choice for someone who didn't want kids. Okay, on to the issue at hand. With the birth of my son, I started to wonder who my dad is, more so to be aware of any possible medical conditions than to have a relationship with him. I asked my mum last year and got the same answer as usual, married man, no pictures or number. This time, my partner started looking into him. No record of his name in the school where mum said she met him. The age didn't line up with how long people are in school, so she got me an ancestry kit. Imagine my surprise when a member of my grandfather's family popped up on there. So, last weekend, I confronted my mum, who needed a few days to remember, and this weekend, I got the results of this. My grandfather is my father. The story my mum gave was so crazy, I can't accept it. But I'll type it here. She was deeply depressed because she didn't have children, was abused by her granddad, her actual dad abandoned her, and all her relationships were unhealthy, her type was married men. So her stepdad, my granddad/dad, was the first nice person in her life, and they became so close that people would joke they were having an affair, but it was never like that. One drunken night out, she opened up to my granddad about why she was depressed, she wanted a baby, and asked him to help her with this by giving him a pot. He left a deposit, went downstairs, and immediately realized this was insane, so he asked her to destroy the sample. She said she would, but didn't, and used it anyway, claiming they never had sex, ever. Then, a week later, the married man she was seeing, the same one we can find no record of, had a condom split, So she presumed it was him, and my granddad/dad never suspected a thing. Now, the DNA confirms that my granddad is my dad. But I don't know what to do with this information or where my head is at, and I would really appreciate any advice on what you think my next steps should be. A few of my scattered thoughts. My mom must be an utter sociopath. Not only did she do that with her stepdad, but in her early years, she actively convinced my grandparents to move in with her while raising his child and lying, if not having an affair. If the story is true, she must have had a suspicion that I could have been his and just lied. How could a person with feelings and emotions do that to their own mother? And then allow this woman to look after her affair child while she went through cancer? My nan still goes over monthly to check on her. If someone can lie to their entire family like this and rub their faces in it, I can't see her as someone with real feelings, and I don't trust her at all. Even her husband doesn't know about this. In fact, when she met up with me to tell me, she told her husband she was going to see my son. Her lies never end. While I never realized just how crazy my mom is, I always knew she was a little nutty. My granddad, however, is a different matter. He has always been my rock when I was younger. He has always been so loving to his wife that the person I thought he was just wouldn't do this. But my mom's story is so disgusting and crazy. And why would she lie? And if he is so sensible, why wasn't his advice something like, go to a sperm donor, or, go on a bar crawl, dress up, buy a guy a few drinks, and don't use protection? Finally, what do I do with this information? I can't face my family knowing that the entire close-knit dynamic is built on a lie. I'm tempted to tell everyone, but my grandma is a saint, and I can't imagine telling an 83-year-old, your husband and daughter have stabbed you in the back, even though you spent your entire life looking after the woman your husband was cheating on you with and their affair baby. I think at this stage of her life, it may kill her. She has had such a hard life and just doesn't deserve to look back and see that every second of her kindness was wasted. If I could tell the world while protecting her, I would. But I don't think it's right that my mom gets to walk away from this scot-free, and I think it's only right that my granddad should be told, if he doesn't already know. Mom says he doesn't, but how can I believe all of this? If I tell him without Mom talking to him, then I have the best chance of getting the real story. However, I rarely see him without my grandma, and I can pretty much work the real story out. I can't help but feel this isn't my mess to clean up. My mom should tell him, and if she says, I told him this story, I will know it's an outright lie. So, my head is a mess, and my partner is too involved in wanting to protect me, so I could really use some impartial advice on what you guys think I should do. I want what's best for me, my partner, my kid, and my grandma. Update 3 days later. Okay, it's been a few days, and the shock has settled somewhat. I read everyone's replies and tried to answer them all, but it has been a busy few days. The 3 consistent pieces of advice were to get therapy, that my anger seems to be entirely directed at my mom and not at my dad or granddad, and to maybe consider that my granddad groomed her from a young age. I want to assure everyone that all your comments were heard. To clarify, it's not that I wasn't angry at him, but the shock of that part hit harder. My mom and I always had a turbulent relationship. However, he was my rock for my entire life, and this was so out of left field and unlike the man I knew that it took me a little longer to realize this could very well be a form of grooming. I moved the situation forward by texting my mom my feelings. To shorten a very long text, it boiled down to 2 main points. 1. I don't believe your story, you need to tell me what happened. Was this an affair, or was it something more sinister? And 2, you need to tell my granddad/dad about this. My mom's answer was very short. She didn't acknowledge my feelings or ask how I was even once. Instead, she told me she wouldn't speak to me about this again, that she was not groomed, and that this was her idea. She isn't sorry, and she claims it's my fault that I'm hurt because my investigation forced her to tell the story. She said she will tell my granddad. The next day, my granddad called me immediately. He sounded as I felt. Shocked, confused, etc. My mom just said, I'm not as shocked as I thought I would be. He told me his version, with 2 key differences, that it wasn't a deposit on the side, but that my mom had pre-bought a kit that allowed artificial insemination, which had just as much chance of working as sex itself. She convinced him it was a good idea. He can't remember every argument, as it was 33 years ago, but the 2 that stand out are, you're the person I am closest to, and I trust you, and, if I needed a kidney, you would give me that without hesitation. This conversation, along with a few beers, led him to go along with it. However, after he did it, he realized what a complete mistake it was and told my mom, this is a mistake. Let's not do this. Bin it, and let's not talk of it again, as if nothing happened. Mom agreed, said she would bin his sample, and he left for home, thinking he had avoided the biggest mistake of his life. Mom, of course, did not destroy it as she said she would. She used it. In the eyes of my country's law, this is SA. In my last post, I mentioned that my mom was SA'd by her granddad and abandoned quite publicly by her birth father. Something I didn't mention about my granddad is that he also had a rough childhood. His mother died when he was young, and his stepmom was abusive. This has led him to forgive any mistakes his family makes and to believe that family comes first without exception, to a fault. Because he views my mom as his daughter, he feels like the villain of the piece, saying, the understanding of mental health wasn't there. I didn't realize how deep her depression was, and I regret not telling her to see a therapist. He feels that he failed her massively for not doing so. He is also thinking of telling his wife immediately but believes I should have a say in that decision. He empathized with how I was feeling too, something my mom did not. I want to believe him, however, as I said earlier in this post, this is the relationship that will impact me the most if lost. So, I spoke to my partner for an outsider's opinion, as she, of course, knows these people's traits and flaws. She agrees that this sounds plausible in an insane situation. My granddad's flaw of putting family first, my mom's manipulative and lying nature, and her story not completely lining up. There could always be a chance they had an affair or a drunken one-night stand that neither will admit to, but nothing has ever made my partner or me feel there was any kind of spark or awkwardness between them to suggest this. My mom also always spins stories to make herself look like a saint. The easy option would be to say this was grooming or assault as an easy out, so why make up this completely unbelievable lie as another option? A few people may wonder if my mom is that good at manipulation. There are many small instances, but let me just mention the biggest. She once convinced my grandma and granddad to buy a house with her, one that none of them could afford on their own, outside of their hometown. A couple of years later, she moved out. When I was younger, my grandma said, "You know how convincing your mom can be." Only by piecing this together when I was older, when she tried to convince me with some very skewed points of view or outright lies, did I realize that the way she communicates isn't normal, it's manipulation. So, next steps, my granddad wants all three of us to meet up over Easter weekend and discuss whether we should tell the wider family. He is willing to tell his wife if that's what everyone wants, even knowing it will destroy his marriage. My mom hasn't contacted me since, so I don't know if she will even come. If she does attend this meeting, I will use it as an opportunity to confirm whether she did withdraw consent when we are all there. If she admits to this, then I am inclined to believe this crazy story is true, that they were both monumentally stupid and that my mom has stabbed him in the back. The shock from my granddad is real, but so was our relationship, and we were both in the dark. That means I can see a way forward in forging our relationship. My mom, however, I do not trust, and if she admits to this, she will also be admitting to SA. I don't imagine her usually admitting to something like this, but she has admitted things thus far, only because she had no other option due to an ancestry test. As for my relationship with her, I don't know. I don't trust her. But then, she is clearly an old lady with cancer and deeply rooted mental health issues. The old relationship will always be dead, but should I set new boundaries and try to form a new relationship with this woman, or should I just cut contact due to the lack of trust? That, I don't know yet. I'll also be setting my boundaries with her as far as the wider family goes. My granddad has stated that I should have a say in whether my grandma is told. This is something I don't know the morally right answer to. She is 83 years old, and this will destroy her. And will she even believe this crazy story? Probably not, as she was also abused by her father. So much abuse in my family has been uncovered with this, it's so sad. But then, if my granddad was SA'd, is it fair to destroy his marriage? On the flip side, is it right to lie about something this big? This is a decision I can't make for my own mental health, and ultimately, it is not my mistake to clean up after. So, I will be using this meeting to tell them they need to decide together what the next steps are. My mom has effortlessly kept this part of her life from everyone, so that will clearly be her choice. But my granddad, will he be able to lie to his wife about this? I don't know. I will tell them that they need to decide, and I will go along with their decision. But if they change their minds, they need to tell me so I can prepare for any fallout. Our meeting will be in a week or two, so I will leave a final update then. For now, I wanted to thank everyone who reached out and gave advice. I will be getting to a therapist soon so I can make a better informed decision and a clearer choice for what's best for me, my partner, and my child. Someone said I should marry my fiancée, as she has had to put up with the brunt of my mom's insanity for 4+ years. To them, I will say, you are right. She is absolutely amazing, and we have been engaged for a while. But COVID, a pregnancy that led to buying a house, and our first baby have delayed an actual wedding. But she truly is the best and has been a rock throughout all of this. Second update 1 month later. It's been a few weeks, and a lot has happened, so since I received such good advice from you guys, I thought I would tell you what has happened up until now, and then I won't provide any further updates. Before I continue, I feel I should clarify a comment in my previous post. The title said my mom went from normal to narcissist in an hour. She has always been a narcissist. Often, narcissists have a golden child and a scapegoat. I was the golden child, with no siblings to be a scapegoat. Enter my fiancé, and a scapegoat was found. Over the last 8 years, her nature has become more and more obvious to me as she treated my fiancé more harshly. Being blind to it, I failed to defend my partner when I should have, genuinely believing it was just my mom's poor communication skills, which I have been aware of for many years. Anyway, on with the update. My mom, granddad, and I sat down on Good Friday. My mom corroborated my granddad's story. She had stolen his sperm. I took into account what people said about her being abused for years, so I decided to steer away from focusing on the act itself. It will always be in my mind that they may have had an affair, which would mean she was groomed, as the truth they have presented is so bizarre. But it was over 30 years ago, and without it, I wouldn't be here. This is the version of events they are both claiming to be true. So, I turned the conversation to how we move forward. Originally, I wasn't going to comment on whether we should tell anyone or not, as it's their mess. But I knew my mom would argue for keeping it quiet, which she did, and not having an opinion, when I already knew the outcome, felt the same as having an opinion on it. So, when they asked what I wanted to do, the deciding factor came down to a friend's advice: will telling your grandma help you in any way? The answer was no, it wouldn't. So, I agreed to keep it quiet. My mom then accidentally told me that she had lied to my stepdad, telling him I was preventing her from seeing my child, which I thought was really not okay. I am angry with her for a justifiable reason and am trying to salvage our relationship somewhat, despite having no trust in her, and she's blaming me for this. So, I told her she needs to tell her husband the real reason I haven't been as close. After this conversation, I had 3 days off work and wanted some time and space to put it behind me, book some therapy, and spend time with my partner and child. But that never happened. That night, somebody tried to reverse a car through my neighbor's house in revenge for what the police told us was a petty squabble, and the neighbors got a rifle, guns are super rare in the UK, and shot at them. Of course, the police were called by numerous people on the street, and thank the gods my child slept through it, but my partner and I were nervous wrecks for a long time after. So, goodbye relaxing weekend, and thanks for ruining Easter. After making sure my family was safe, I picked this family drama back up and met my mom and stepdad last weekend. This was to set clear boundaries in the relationship going forward. My trust in her has been broken, and honestly, I don't think she has enough time left to rebuild it completely, due to cancer. But my relationship with her is separate from her relationship with my son, who loves his Nana and has been kept separate from all of this. I feel very distant from my close-knit family these days, but I guess that's what happens when they lie to you your whole life. My mom has given me an attempt at an apology, however weak. I have told her my feelings, which haven't been understood, and I have set new boundaries, which will probably be ignored, so I will keep my partner's mother's advice to heart. If you can offer a relationship to just one person, knowing you will get nothing back, you will have led a good life. Then finally, as of today, my partner and I can announce that she has been pregnant throughout this whole crapstorm, and due to the extra stresses, we have been super nervous about whether the baby was okay. But in the first scan, the baby was moving around with a strong, healthy heartbeat. Thank you again, everyone, for the help and advice you gave me. Third update 8 months later. After my last post, I figured there would never be an update to share. Throughout most of this, shock was the predominant feeling. Then, about 3 weeks ago, all the emotions hit me like a ton of bricks, and I really started to struggle. In November, my partner gave birth to a beautiful baby. She is tired from getting up to feed him, and I didn't have the capacity to ignore her exhaustion-induced shortness and not take it personally. The UK health system is slow, and counseling only started 3 weeks ago, so I didn't know how to heal or find forgiveness for anyone, despite my mum being very sick. But last Thursday, something big changed. I started writing my thoughts down, but since I wasn't sure about the rules for updating on each sub, I decided to compile the posts together and share the update here. Last week, after seeing how much I was struggling, my partner reached out to my mum to tell her how much it was affecting me. My mum's reaction was, "Sorry he is hurting. I wish he would talk to me, but he won't. I don't want to hurt everyone by telling the truth," to which my partner replied, "As a mother, I'm sure you don't want to leave this world hurting your son. By not telling everyone, you are leaving him as the scapegoat, and she needs to find a solution." To my surprise, this worked, and she sat down and told my Nana and her sister her version of the truth. My opinion. As soon as I heard my Nana knew the truth, I rang her and sobbed. However, the truth has lifted a huge mental load from me, and for the first time in nearly a year, I can think without a heavy cloud over everything. I think this secret was making me more and more depressed, and while I seemed fine outwardly, it was taking an even bigger toll than I realized. Shock had carried me through the last 3 weeks. Now that the truth is out, I can function. My biggest issue was that I felt like a sleazeball for lying, but I didn't know if telling the truth was the right thing to do. I could revoke my silence, but I couldn't take back the truth, so I chose inaction until I knew what to do. But I'm not sure I ever would have figured that out. Another thought I had was, if I waited for my mum to pass away, would it be fair to share this with her sister, who would then have to sit with that knowledge without the opportunity to ask any questions herself? I know I spoke in circles with friends and my partner and did the best I could, so I won't beat myself up too much. But I felt a physical weight lift from my shoulders when I knew the lie was out. I still don't believe their story, though. My mum keeps mentioning that she thought my real dad was Robert from school, even though I know he doesn't exist. But at the very least, this doesn't affect my identity. My Nana's opinion. My Nana remains a saint. She believed them completely, as she knows how dedicated her husband is to helping his children and understands how bad my mum's mental health was. She loves her family and is happy for me that I found out who my dad is, and she knows he loves me. She is disappointed in her husband for not telling her when he found out a year ago, but is ultimately happy that it resulted in me, as she couldn't love me more. She is sad that I had to deal with this while raising a baby and doesn't think it was fair of them to put me through it. I named my baby after her because she's amazing. My aunt's opinion. My aunt reached out to wish me well and assured me that nothing in our relationship has been affected by my parents. She found out yesterday, a little later than everyone else. She has lost a lot of respect for her sister and stepdad but still loves her family, even though she is disappointed and her trust is shaken. She has criticized them for making me stay silent because it will kill my Nana, calling it cowardly and wrong. However, she also knows she needs her family, and my mom, in her poor health, needs her. She has told her children and left it up to them whether they believe the story or not. So that's the end of it. I've bought a few self-help books, found a therapist who is helping, and I'm just trying to rebuild after a year of hell. My mom probably only has a few months left, but then, she was only supposed to live until I was 17, and I'm 32 now, so we shall see. With the truth out, I can at least start forging a small relationship based on honesty. However, I doubt it will ever be as strong as it once was, simply because she doesn't have enough time to rebuild it to that level. Ultimately, what my aunt said really rang true to me. It's a shame because even if the story is true, nobody will ever believe it. And they will live with that stain on them forever. Fourth update 1 year 1 week later. It's been nearly a year, and I'm posting this on my profile to provide an update, as so many commented and helped. About a month after the last post, on February 20, 2024, my mom passed away. She was surrounded by family. My aunt and I don't talk much anymore. My Nana thinks it's because she's busy building her house, but I imagine the awkwardness my mom caused is too much. She doesn't text back Happy New Year, etc., so we will see. She did forgive her stepdad, saying he has always been a wonderful father. My Nana and Papa are still together. Nana trusts her husband and daughter and believes they would never hurt her by way of an affair. I still visit my stepdad, Mom's husband, semi-frequently, and while he is still stoic and forgetful, we are closer than we ever have been. It's like he took a back seat to let my mom always be in the spotlight. He has a live-in carer now to make sure he is looked after. My free therapy sessions ended the week my mom died, and I couldn't afford more. My mental health was pretty low, and I struggled for a long time. I was constantly checking my phone, unfocused, and feeling stressed all the time. I couldn't be bothered to engage in many hobbies apart from eating and gaming. In December, I exploded, acted like a complete jerk to my partner, who very nearly dumped me, and it would have been deserved. Despite me lashing out, it was a release that I desperately needed, in hindsight. After this, I have been a much happier person, with a lot more brain space. I patched things up at home, have started losing weight, and am enjoying my free time again. My eldest is 4, misses his Nana Titch, but now loves seeing his grandpa wheels. Thank you, truly, to everyone who helped me and supported me on Reddit. It was really needed, and I was very lost. Talking to you guys, who were angry, shocked for me, and spoke to me, really helped when I felt I had no one. Story 4. Am I the jerk for not making my son forgive my brother after he was uninvited from his wedding? Posted by you/Leo Bastian. 6 months ago, my son Leo, 14M, decided to cut off my brother Jack, 46M. Now my mom, brother, sister-in-law, and other family members want me to make my son forgive him to keep the peace. For a little bit of context, I, 46M, am a single dad. My family has always helped me in many ways, mostly babysitting when Leo was younger, and even before my son was born, we were all very close. We all live relatively close to each other, so we've been able to keep in touch with weekly gatherings, spending the holidays together, etc. Everyone loves my son, and my son loved them back. However, my brother Jack was always my son's favorite person. Back when my son was 3 to 4 years old, Jack and his wife had more flexible jobs than me, think freelancing versus a 9 to 5, so they always volunteered to look after Leo, something he loved. Almost every month, they would take him to the zoo or the aquarium, or they'd even go camping with him. As my son grew older, he started to develop the same interests as my brother, like video games, photography, and music. When Leo was 9, he told me he wanted to have the same career as his uncle. This is all to say, they were extremely close. Last year, my brother informed me that he and his girlfriend, Mary, were getting married. I knew that neither Jack nor Mary believed in marriage, so when I asked them about it, they told me it was all Karen's idea, my sister-in-law's mom. Because Jack and Mary didn't care much about the wedding and since Karen was paying for it, they let her plan everything, from the venue to the food, music, etc. Karen decided to plan a destination wedding at a fancy resort. In July of last year, we received the invitation, and it was addressed to both me and my son. I even had A+1 if I wanted. As soon as the website went up, I tried to make a reservation for our hotel room. I should clarify that I had to call the hotel to make my reservation because the link wasn't working, and I really couldn't risk not getting a room. When I received the email confirmation, it said room for 2 adults, but I didn't think much of it and just assumed it was an error due to the language barrier with the hotel staff. I also bought the plane tickets for us around the same time. Fast forward to January, less than a month before the wedding, when my sister-in-law called me, crying, saying that Karen had made a mistake with the venue. Apparently, the resort was for adults only, so they didn't allow anyone younger than 16. My son was 13 at the time. I asked her if it would be possible for Leo and me to stay at another hotel, but they told me the whole resort was child-free, so my son wouldn't even be allowed to attend the ceremony or the reception. I was disappointed, and I told my sister-in-law I'd talk to my son about it. I knew how excited he was about his uncle's wedding, but she insisted that both she and Jack wanted to tell him in person. Honestly, my son was devastated. He started crying as soon as he was told he wouldn't be able to go. He pleaded with them and even offered to give them all of his savings so they could move the wedding. After 30 minutes of this, my sister-in-law got frustrated and just told him that he was being selfish and that this day wasn't about him. Leo eventually apologized and went to his room. After the wedding, my son just stopped talking to my brother. If Jack sent him a message, Leo would just ignore it unless it had something to do with me. For example, he would only reply if Jack asked him to tell me something because he couldn't reach me, etc. At our family gatherings, Leo would only respond to small requests like, "Can you pass the salt?" or "Help grandma with the plates," but he would ignore my brother if Jack or Mary tried to start a conversation or ask him about school, etc. A month after the wedding, Jack and Mary offered to take him on a special vacation during spring break to make up for the wedding, but my son just ignored them. He later told me he didn't want to go with them. It was heartbreaking because I knew how much he wanted to go to that place, and I wasn't able to afford it yet, but he stuck to his guns. Something similar happened on Leo's birthday. He asked me if I was planning to throw him a party. I do it every year, and when I said yes, he asked me not to invite his aunt and uncle. I tried to convince him to invite them because they're family and they were really sorry, but he just said that if they didn't want him on their special day, he didn't want them on his. My brother was crying when I told him he wasn't invited. However, things came to a head this past weekend. We were at my mom's house, and the topic of Leo's university came up. My mom asked Leo if he was still planning on going to the same university as Jack and told him that he should start planning for that, but my son replied that he wasn't interested anymore and had chosen to study something else. Then my mom said, "I thought you wanted to be like your uncle," and my son just said, "Why would I want to be like him?" At this point, I intervened and told Leo he didn't have to be so rude, but the damage was already done. Both my brother and sister-in-law heard what he said, and they left shortly after. Last night, my brother texted me, saying I was a jerk for letting my son continue with this grudge, and he even accused me of being jealous of their relationship and said that's why I wasn't doing anything to fix it. I just told him these were the consequences of his actions and that this was 100% his fault for allowing his piece of crap mother-in-law to plan the wedding when she obviously hated my child. He hung up on me. My mom and some other family members think I should force my son to forgive my brother so we can all move on, claiming there was no ill intent and it was just a small mistake. But I don't think I should. My son was clearly hurt, and he should be allowed to heal and forgive them only when he's ready. So, am I the jerk here? Relevant comments. Op commenting about the family conversations with Jack, Mary, and Leo. His response was rude because of the tone, not because of what he said. He said what he said, using a very specific tone, to get a reaction out of his uncle. That's why it was rude. He wasn't just responding to the, rather inappropriate, question asked by Grandma, he was acting up. He was trying to pick a fight. Trust me, I've heard that tone many times before. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I understand why he is hurt and angry. I have respected his boundaries and helped him navigate this as best as I can, but that doesn't mean I have to accept him picking a fight every chance he gets. As for the conversation, I didn't include my reactions because I didn't consider them relevant. Paraphrasing, of course, it went something like this. Mary, we made a mistake, and you won't be able to go to the wedding. Leo, but why? You invited me. I want to go. Mary, the place where the wedding is taking place only accepts adults. You can't enter. Leo, I don't get it. Can't you make an exception? Me, they can't. It's not up to Mary and Jack. Remember when you tried to get a part-time job at the pub, and the owners told you they can't have children inside, let alone working there? It's like that. Leo, can you get married somewhere else? Mary, we can't. We already paid a lot of money for that place. Leo, I can give you my savings. I have X. Mary, it's not enough, and it's not just us who spent money. All the guests already spent a lot of money, and they don't want to lose it. Leo, my dad has money. He can give you money so I can go. Please, I want to be at the wedding. It's not fair. Jack, I'm sorry, Leo. But we can make it up to you. What do you say if we take you to Greece after the wedding? You've always wanted to go. Leo, getting more and more upset, I don't wanna. I want to go to the wedding. Why don't you want me there? Me, Leo, it was a mistake. They wanted you there, but we all made a mistake, and we didn't realize sooner that there was a minimum age. Leo, it's not fair. Why did they invite me then? I want to be with my uncle on his special day. Mary, raising her voice, this is not our fault. It just happened, and you need to let it go. I'm sorry you can't be there, but you need to stop being selfish. This is my special day, not yours. Then Leo broke down. Like I wrote in another comment, I tried to console him and just shot Mary a shut up look without saying anything at the moment. Jack did tell her something, but I didn't hear what he said. Once he calmed down, Leo said he was sorry and asked me if he could go to his room. Mary and Jack were apologizing, but Leo didn't even look at them. I followed my son to his room to make sure he was okay, and he asked me to leave. I went back to the living room and talked to my brother and sister-in-law. Me, WTF is wrong with you? You have no right to yell at my son. Mary, I'm sorry. I'm too stressed. We've been fighting with my mom about this for 2 months. Me, I don't care. I told you on the phone he would be disappointed, and you made it worse. Get out. Jack, please, she didn't mean it. I'll make it up to Leo. Me, I said I don't care. Get out. Then they left, and I just went to check on Leo. I don't have a photographic memory, so I don't remember every single word that was said, but this is the gist of what happened that day. On Leo's mother and where she was in all of this. My ex and I got divorced when Leo was 2, and she decided to move back to her home country. We kept in regular contact for a few years until she remarried. These days, she only calls on Christmas and his birthday. On his interactions with Mary's mother. I haven't interacted much with her outside of large family gatherings, but she's the type of person who always complains about kids running around or how she can't drink freely because there are kids in the room. She also made some rude comments about my sister having too many kids, and she only has 3. I asked Jack several times if Karen did this on purpose, but he insisted it was an honest mistake. I'm just not sure I believe it. On how long his brother had been with Mary. For the record, my brother has been with Mary since they were 22, so she has always been around. Adds an edit to his post. I'm going through all the comments, and I just wanted to answer a question I've seen about 10 times now. I did not go to the wedding. I didn't want to leave my son alone while most of the family was away, and it just didn't feel right to go to the wedding after what happened. Update 3 weeks later. So, I've received some messages asking for an update. I appreciate everyone who took the time to comment and send me messages. Some may have been a bit harsh, but I deserved it. Thanks for slapping some sense into me. The short version is that we'll stop going to family events for a while. I talked to my brother, and he will respect my son's boundaries, and he also explained what really happened. Above all, Leo is doing much better now. Here's the longer update in case anyone's interested in the details. Mom and sister. The short of it is that I informed my mom that both Leo and I would stop going to family gatherings until things calmed down and, more importantly, until he felt comfortable again. She was understandably upset, but I think she finally understood how much she had been hurting Leo. What surprised me was that my mom told me Jack had become depressed, so she was worried about him, and that's why she was so insistent that Leo should forgive him. I basically told her that if we forced Leo to forgive my brother, we risked pushing him away from us. As for my sister, she was also sad when I told her we'd stop going to family gatherings, but she said she understood. However, she suggested we make our own weekly tradition so the children can still hang out, and that's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. We decided my nibblings would come to my house 1 week, and then Leo would hang out at hers the next. So far, it seems to be working, and Leo is happy with this arrangement. I think it helps that he isn't being pressured by the adults expecting him to talk to his uncle. Jack and Mary. The weekend after I posted here, I texted my brother, asking him to meet me so we could talk. I had told him that I wanted to speak with him alone so Mary wouldn't be present. Jack immediately apologized and said how much he regretted what he had done and the things he had told me. He confirmed what I already suspected and said he was stressed because of the constant fights with Mary. He mentioned that he had considered divorce because of how bad the fights had gotten. I may seem cruel here, but I basically told him that I didn't care about that. What I wanted was for him to tell me the truth about what the hell had happened. Jack maintains that he didn't know about the venue being child-free until last November. However, like many of you suspected, Mary had known for quite a while, maybe even the whole time. Apparently, this all started a few years back when Jack and Mary took Leo to the beach. While they were playing, my son accidentally called Jack Dad before quickly correcting himself. From what Jack told me, it was a small mistake, like when you call a teacher mom. Leo was embarrassed, but Jack just laughed it off. The catch? Jack's mother-in-law, Karen, and father-in-law had joined them for that vacation, and they overheard Leo when it happened. When they came back from their vacation, Karen went ballistic, claiming she was triggered by some random kid calling Jack Dad, knowing that Mary couldn't have children. Mary had tried to explain it was just a misunderstanding, but Karen became extremely toxic and abusive toward Mary and started making demands, such as not inviting Leo over when Karen visited, etc. So when Jack and Mary decided to get married, and since they initially just wanted to elope and not have a party at all, Karen manipulated Mary and convinced her to let her plan the perfect wedding for her only daughter. Mary gave in because she was sick of several years of emotional manipulation and just wanted to keep the peace. So Karen hijacked the wedding and purposely chose the child-free venue. Mary discovered this when the venue was booked or shortly after, but she didn't say anything because every time she tried to argue, Karen would play the victim and so on. Mary claimed that she had tried to negotiate with the resort for an exception to be made so the children could attend the ceremony/reception, even if they stayed in a different hotel, but the manager stood firm on the policy. However, as the date got closer, she became more anxious until she finally admitted the truth to Jack in November. According to my brother, Mary exploded at Leo because of the constant bullying and manipulation from her own mother, and she also felt extremely guilty for letting things get that far. For his part, Jack said that if he had found out earlier, he would have stepped in and cancelled the wedding rather than exclude Leo and my sister's children. But by that point, many people had already booked their flights and hotel rooms, so cancelling wasn't an option. In the end, I told my brother that none of that excused the way they had behaved, especially his wife. She was a 40-plus-year-old woman picking a fight with a kid. She had yelled and called him selfish when all Leo wanted was to offer the little he had saved so he could be part of Jack's special day. I reminded him that Leo looked up to him and considered him his hero, and he had let him down. He had shown Leo that he wasn't important to him the way Jack was important to Leo. I also told him that I would continue supporting Leo and going no contact and that I would be going low contact with him myself. He asked me for a chance to apologize to Leo, but I told him he had already apologized. All he could do now was wait to see if one day my son would accept his apology. Jack seemed hurt, but he told me he would respect our wishes and give us time and space. Leo. As for my son, I apologized for not standing up for him and forcing him to meet with the family every week. I told him that he could decide what he wanted to do with that part of the family going forward. He seemed reluctant to stop going, but I let him know that I would support him no matter what and that I wouldn't be upset. What made me happy was that Leo suggested we stop going to the family every week and instead spend more time together, just him and me, doing some of the things he used to do with my brother. Last week, we went to a vintage car show, and next week, we're going to watch Wicked. I'm not a theater guy, but it sounds fun. I also told him I was worried that he had stopped doing things he liked and that he shouldn't stop just because he had a falling out with someone he cared about. I basically told him it was okay to still enjoy things by himself or with someone else. He admitted he actually wanted to do those things but had stopped just to spite Jack. I decided to give him an early Christmas gift and bought him some games he had been excited about but had refunded after the fight with my brother. He even convinced me to play Final Fantasy Online with him on his PS5 while he plays on PC. I admit I have no idea what I'm doing in that game since the last Final Fantasy I played was still in 2D, but he seems to enjoy watching me fail. Any advice here is welcome. Finally, we decided to take a trip to his dream destination for my birthday. I was a little bit sad because it's going to be the first time in almost 50 years that I don't celebrate a birthday with my brother, but I've got my son, and that's all that matters. So yeah, Leo is happier and less stressed about the family. Speaking of which, I think the family is finally respecting our boundaries, so that's good too. I just hope my brother can work on his marriage. I may hate what they did, but I do want him to be happy. Second update 5 months 2 weeks later. It's been a while, hasn't it? The wedding anniversary is next week, and I remember this post. I just thought I'd do one quick update for those wondering what happened. TLDR? Life's been boring. Longer update, Leo and I took a step back from the big family for a bit, but we decided to give the holidays a go with everyone. I gotta admit, I was nervous. We even had a backup plan in case things got awkward with Jack and Leo. Thankfully, it was all rather uneventful, like all the others. The biggest thing is that my brother and Leo had a proper chat on Christmas Eve. I saw them talking, and Leo went all quiet, which worried me at first. But he said it was a good talk. They're not back to how they were, not by a long shot, but they've been spending a bit of time together since then, hanging out and sometimes just playing games. It's still a bit weird for all of us, but it's progress, I guess? I know some people were worried about Leo's future, as if my brother's career was the only option, lol. But Leo's a good kid. He's been branching out and trying new things. He said he wants to become a game developer or maybe a writer. I've been reading some of his stuff, and it's pretty good, or I may be biased because he's my son and all. As for uni, he's been considering a physics degree or becoming a pilot. That's probably my fault. I introduced him to my favorite author, and now he's obsessed with time travel and alternate universes. I also, finally, convinced him to try a sport, and he's liked it so far. I even got him to watch some games with me and may drag him along to next year's World Cup. And I've always wanted to visit Mexico, so it's gonna be nice, just the two of us and all that. Jack and I have been making an effort to meet up every fortnight. It's been hard, I won't lie. Our birthday was back in October, and it was particularly rough. I know some will be angry at me, but I miss my brother. I read something that said you can love someone and not like them, and that's kind of where I'm at. Leo will always be my number one, but Jack's my brother, and it hurts to be apart, you know? On the Jack and Mary front, they're heading for a divorce. They had to be married for a year, and Jack said he'll file ASAP maybe next week or the week after. It's been tough on him. He said it wasn't just the fallout with Leo but a lot of other things too. I'm sad for him. But life goes on, doesn't it? It's mostly been pretty boring, day-to-day stuff, dealing with work, a teen, and some health-related stuff. But yeah, thanks to everyone who commented. Relevant comments. Commenter. I didn't catch on that Op and Jack are twins, mostly because I wasn't paying attention to the ages in the very beginning. I don't know if it was intentional, but the fact that he didn't emphasize it and was subtle about it, our birthday in the recent update and mentioning not spending his last one with Jack, makes it feel more real to me. Having this kind of fight with your twin, versus a regular sibling, adds another layer. Missing them feels different, I think. Also, it wasn't just Leo, Op's sister has kids too. Imagine keeping family away against your will from a ceremony you don't even want. The problem here is that Jack didn't care enough. If I were Op, I would deeply regret sticking up for Jack and Mary, insisting it was out of their hands or not their fault. Mary well and truly gaslit that kid. And for all his professions of love, Jack chose this stupid ceremony over his nibblings. I'm glad that Leo eventually realized he wasn't a priority and decided to deprioritize Jack in return. It really frustrates me that Jack did what he did and still pushed for Op to make Leo be okay with him. Commenter 2. I noticed Op mentioned that his brother had been with Mary since they were both 22 and also that she's 40 plus. So they were together for at least 18 years before getting married, only for the marriage to end in less than a year. Op said his brother mentioned that it wasn't just the fallout from the wedding that was leading to the divorce. I wonder if the other issues had been there all along. Commenter 3. I think the mother-in-law pushing for a wedding in the first place imploded everything even before she booked an adults-only resort. Those two have probably been in a we've been together forever safe relationship for several years, if not a decade, and it was the stress of it all that caused the cracks that had been there for a long time to widen and become impossible to ignore. I'm going to guess that the mother-in-law knew those cracks existed, so I imagine what we'll never know is whether her seething hatred for an innocent child was what pushed her to demand a wedding or not. Mary never learned to stand up to her mother, and she's facing the consequences of that, but damn if the mother-in-law isn't batcrap cray cray. Story 5.
Am I the jerk for cutting my father out of my life after he didn't attend my wedding? Posted by you/Avalon. I, 35F, have rewritten this so many times. It's just hard to get all of my feelings out. I apologize for it being so long. I had very low contact with my father for many years. He and my mother had a bitter divorce when I was 18, and he met his current girlfriend, Debbie, when I was 20. Without going too in-depth, he was physically and mentally abusive my whole life until I moved out at 20. When the pandemic hit, he started calling more. Given the state of the world and the fact that I was now in my 30s, I was more open to communicating with him. We very slowly began talking again, with me setting very firm boundaries regarding conversation topics. He would occasionally violate them, scream at me, go into timeout, and then be good for a while. When I met my husband, Victor, my father was actually excited for me. He spent time trying to get to know him over the phone and was happy for me. When I moved in with Victor, my father actually apologized to me for everything he had done. For the first time in my life, I felt heard and validated by him. He apologized for treating me like trash in favor of my siblings. He apologized for all the horrible things he had done to me. And I cried. I felt validation and relief like I never had before, and I was completely open to a relationship with him again. When I got engaged, he was thrilled. He asked if he would be walking me down the aisle, and I told him no. It didn't really feel right to me, and since I wasn't having bridesmaids or groomsmen, it made sense to walk alone. No one in my family was ever really there for me, so why wouldn't I walk toward my next chapter alone, just as I had done in my adult life? He was disappointed but accepted it. I told him we could have a dance if that was something he would like, and he agreed. I also mentioned that everyone on my mom's side was excited to see him again after so many years. At this point, he and my mother had been cordial for years, so there was no animosity. He arranged a dinner and invited Victor and me over. It went very well, and I was actually feeling positive about everything. We made plans for him to meet Victor's parents. It was a big deal because we had to travel to a different state to bring them. We planned the trip and coordinated everything. The week before the meeting, my father wanted to cancel. He said Debbie was having an exploratory surgery and wouldn't be recovered in time. I told him we had already made these plans, but that was okay, and I asked if we could just drive by so he could step outside and say hi. Victor's father, who is in his 70s, was having extensive surgery himself, so it was important to meet him now before the procedure. My father begrudgingly agreed. When we pulled up, I was surprised to see that Debbie came out with him and looked completely fine. No bandages, no difficulty walking, no indication of anything. I thought that was odd, but who am I to judge? They both came out, said hi, and we moved on. He made plans over the course of the next few months. Every time, the week of, he would cancel. The excuses started pouring out. His friend's car broke down, and he needed to lend him money. We offered to pay for dinner, but they declined. Debbie was having exploratory surgery again. How many can one person have? Debbie had a doctor's appointment that he had just found out about. They had to take the car to the shop, etc. These were lies he had told over and over again, some he had reused from when I was growing up with him, and I knew he was lying. His favorite lies were always medical. He wanted to treat me for my birthday in the summer, but that never happened. After we had to reschedule 3 times, I said, just forget it. We'll see you at the wedding. He started being drunk on his phone calls again. Started being argumentative again. But he was excited for the wedding. He was going to make a nice trip out of it with Debbie and stay a few days. 3 weeks before my wedding, I got a phone call from Debbie. They share a phone. As soon as I picked up, she demanded to know why I hadn't told anyone that the parking garage next to the hotel where we had a room block charged $25 a day to park. I was dumbstruck because, first, I had no idea that the hotel didn't comp that. We live locally to the venue, so we were just going home after the wedding. Second, it's a major city, of course, they're going to charge. And honestly, $25 isn't that bad for the city. Third, why are you calling me to complain about this? No one else had? I can't exactly change it. I told her I had no idea, that no one else who booked at the hotels had told me, and that $25 was actually a pretty good deal. I told her that if they couldn't afford it, it wasn't that big a deal, maybe they only stayed 1 day, or because they only lived an hour from the venue, they didn't have to stay at the hotel. The venue itself has free parking. She hung up on me. We were getting married on a Sunday in early November. The Tuesday before the wedding, I missed a phone call from my father because I was at an emergency doctor's appointment. Having been in the hospital the day before, stress from everything had exacerbated a prior medical issue. Instead, I received a text. The text said he wasn't coming to my wedding. That Debbie was having exploratory surgery and they couldn't come. That he would still send a card. I knew then that he was lying, just as he had lied all year. I texted back, begging him to come. I wanted him there, it wasn't about money. I told him I was his daughter, and this was the biggest day of my life. That he could come for even an hour. Debbie would be fine for a short time, she had family who could watch her for a couple of hours. He didn't have to stay. He replied that it wasn't a contest of who was more important and that he was surprised at me. I gave my wonderful Victor my phone while I sobbed. I couldn't respond, I was hurting and devastated. He composed a text, showed it to me for approval, and then sent it. It said, basically, very politely but firmly, that if my father couldn't spare a couple of hours to see me on the biggest day of my life, then we would go back to no contact, and I would never speak to him again. My mother, who has her own story for another day, even called him to scream at him for what he was doing. She knew his lies too and called him out on them. He said, "Don't worry, she'll still get a card." I kept him unblocked until mid-morning on my wedding day. Not one message, not one call. I was so upset and angry. He had raised my hopes of having my father be there for me, only to crush them without a second thought. I blocked him that day. My wedding day was absolutely perfect. It was everything we wanted. I felt a little sad right before walking down the aisle, and some friends who didn't know about my father asked where he was. But other than that, I didn't even think of him. It wasn't until after Thanksgiving that I thought to check my blocked messages. He hadn't sent me a single message on my wedding day wishing me luck, nothing. But he did send one message on Thanksgiving. To summarize, it said, "Debbie will always come first. You should understand that." I don't understand it. I told my brother, who still talks to him, that my father is dead to me and, if he asks, to tell him that. My brother thinks Debbie is the one preventing my father from being with his family. I, quite frankly, don't care. He made that decision, and these are the consequences. He asked my brother how much of a wave he made by not coming, and my brother told him, "A big wave." But I'm not talking about it. So I made the decision that my father will no longer be in my life, and I have so many emotions about it. But mostly, it's relief, sadness, and anger. Yet, I can't help but occasionally check my blocked messages because some part of me just wants to know if he understands how badly he hurt me, or if he even cares. And some days, I just want my dad. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing by cutting him out of my life. Am I the jerk for erasing him completely forever going forward? Am I doing the right thing? And no, we still haven't gotten that card. But we did get a Happy Easter text. Relevant comments. Commenter. Is he there for all your siblings? Ops response. My brother is the golden child, so my dad was always there for him no matter what. My sister was a daddy's girl, they did everything together and loved to pick on me. That changed when she was in her early 20s, though, after my parents' divorce. After he stole insurance money from her, she didn't speak to him for over 10 years and still doesn't really speak to him. Commenter 2. Daddy ratted himself out with one thing he said. He asked your brother how big a wave his absence made. And you played right into it by begging him to come to your wedding. This was never about you, it was about him and how long he could keep you twisting. He also harpooned himself because I suspect you have had enough. I hope he and his wife think it was all worth it because that is all they will have to hang on to. And you have no reason to mourn. One only mourns what one has lost, and you cannot lose what you never had. I hope your new life is long, beautiful, rewarding, and joyful. Ops response. I think you're right. I hate to think this was his plan all along, and some part of me still hopes that at some point, maybe he actually was planning to come. But ultimately, I think his plan was to drop out right before my big day. I'll never know. Thank you for your kind words. Reading the support from such kind internet strangers is helping me heal and be at peace with my decision. Commenter 3. Does he have substance abuse issues? Ops response. Yes, growing up, both he and my mother were alcoholics. The kicker? Back when he first dated Debbie and before I left, my father had custody of us after the divorce. I was old enough to leave, but I couldn't leave my brother alone. Another story for another day. I found some white powder on the garage table. I had no idea what it was and cleaned it off. My clueless self thought it was salt. Later, when Debbie and my father argued, she came into my room, apologized for getting him back into substances, and confessed to me that she had started him on coke and pills. After his first heart attack, they apparently stopped the substances and only used alcohol. Update 4 months later. I got a request for an update, and now I have some time now that things have settled. Though there hasn't really been an update, more of a development. First, I want to thank you for all your comments and advice. The fact that any of you took the time to write me a comment meant the world to me. You all truly encouraged me and strengthened my resolve. Right after my post, I had a good talk with Victor, and he echoed everything you all said. I even looked into deleting my father's number permanently from my phone, but apparently, that would unblock him. After reading through the comments and reflecting on what everyone said, I really started to think about why I ever believed I was the jerk for cutting him off. Well, I guess I have my answer. My brother Devin, 30M, is really impressionable. He lives with my mother, and while living with her can be a nightmare, they were doing well. My brother means a lot to me. I gave up school and a career and took on 3 jobs to help raise him for a few years with my dad after my parents' divorce. He has always struggled to truly be independent, mostly due to my father's coddling throughout his life. He was the golden child. The only boy. In an attempt to help him succeed, some family members, Mom's side, decided to step up, get him out of my mother's house, and support his move to a warmer state to rent with some cousins. They even paid for him to fly out to the new state and see if he wanted to move. When he got home, he apparently went straight to my father's and spent 4 days there. I have no idea why. I called my brother a few days after he returned to my mother's. He said he was really looking forward to moving to the new state. After talking to him for a bit, I mentioned that I was happy for him but really sad that I'd be losing one of my close family members I talked to. His response? Well, I'm the only family member who still talks to Dad, so imagine how he feels. I was stunned. I said, I'm sorry, what did you say? He got angry and just said, well, when I move, Dad will really have no one. Because you refused to talk to him even though it's been months. You really should feel bad for him. He doesn't understand how you can still be mad at him. All those feelings came flooding back. The doubt. The guilt. The am I doing the right thing? And then the anger came. In that moment, I realized that this is what my family normally does to me. And what my father normally does. He plays the victim, makes everyone feel bad for him. Even though I am in the right, I'm made to feel like a piece of crap for having boundaries. I took a breath and explained to my brother, Devin, Dad made his choice. He chose this. I was open to him being a dad, he declined that. He didn't want to be in my life, so he has no right to complain. He did this to himself. I don't care if Debbie made him not go or not, he's a grown man. And he didn't go to his own daughter's wedding. So he can stay dead to me. It was his choice. My brother didn't have anything to say to that, just rushed me off the phone with barely a goodbye. Hung up after I barely got the words love you out. I told Victor what Devin said, and he was appalled. He wished I had taken the call near him so he could speak to my brother himself. I told him that my father brainwashed Devin, that he's not normally like this. He reminded me that Devin is a grown man and not a child anymore, and that I shouldn't excuse what he said. I became so upset, my resolve shaken once again. I felt awkward about the phone call, so I followed up the next day. He wanted to move at the beginning of June. I asked him to visit before he goes from a car ride away to a plane ride away, and he said he would see me in mid-May for his yearly visit to me like always. Then, a week before our normal visit date, I found out from my mother that my brother had texted her, telling her he planned to move in 4 days and make the multi-day drive to the new state. So he lied to me and didn't even plan on seeing me to say goodbye. Victor had no words, just that he was incredibly disappointed in my brother. My brother called me the day before he left. He sounded so happy, saying, "Hey, what's up?" I told him, "Well, honestly, I'm a little hurt and disappointed in you right now because I'm assuming you're calling to tell me you're leaving tomorrow, and you're not even bothering to say goodbye to me." He was adamant that he had told me. Then, when I pointed out that he hadn't, he erupted in anger, accusing me of always playing the victim, asking why I wasn't happy for him, and demanding to know how I could dare make him feel guilty, almost word for word what my father would say. I told him I was thrilled he was moving and having a new opportunity, but I was upset that he was telling me just 12 hours before leaving and not saying goodbye, especially when he literally had to pass within 20 minutes of where I live on his way out. After I started crying, my brother apologized for not telling me. I offered to be up at whatever time he needed, I just wanted to hug him goodbye. He declined, saying he'd be back eventually. Victor was listening and was getting angry at my brother for how he was speaking to me. He's so agitated with him and is hoping he starts acting like an adult in the new state. It's been months now since he moved. I've heard nothing from my father. My brother and I talked occasionally on the phone, with me checking in, especially that first month. He is struggling to get a full-time job where he is, but he's doing everything he can to at least pay rent. He became busy in the last month, so I hadn't heard from him in a while. My birthday came, and he sent me a happy birthday text, saying he'd call later. At 11:45 p.m., I finally got a call from him. I was in the middle of a video game match with friends, and after a brief chat, I asked if he was free the next night. He said yes, so I told him I would call him the next day for a proper catch-up since he had caught me in the middle of something. He hung up on me and didn't answer my call the next day. I haven't tried to call since. I did check for this post, and I did not receive any messages from my father, not since his Happy Easter. Ever since he and my mother separated, he has always forgotten my birthday anyway. I'm at a loss. I don't know what I did wrong or what I did to deserve this treatment from him. Is this all because I won't forgive my father? And I'm just sitting here sad. All I've ever wanted is for my family to love me, and I don't know what to do next. If you have advice for me, I just ask that you say it kindly. My heart is rather full of emotions at the moment. Relevant comments. Commenter. "Aw, sweetheart. This isn't a you problem. I'm not saying anybody else involved is a narcissist, but this is what is referred to as the narcissist's prayer, and I think it will give you some food for thought as to why this sounds so darn familiar. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it." Ops response. That hits hard. And yes, that is incredibly familiar. It reminds me of every single member of my immediate family, and now I'm a bit shook. I have a lot to think about right now. Second update 6 months later. I have gotten a couple of requests for a further update, and I do have some new developments, so I can at least share something with you all. It's not a full pot of tea, but you can sip it from a dainty teacup made up of my unresolved issues. Also, thank you all for your kind words. I appreciate you taking the time to comment and make me feel validated. Okay, now for the update to the update. My brother. In early October, my brother called me and said he wasn't doing well in the new state and basically wanted to come back home. In a way, I wonder if he was fishing to live with me and Victor so he wouldn't have to return to my mother, but I would never live with him ever again. I basically just told him to talk to our mother and work out a plan to come back if that's what he wanted to do. I'm through trying to fix things for him. He promised to return for Christmas. Which, of course, didn't happen. I haven't heard from him since. I've gotten the group holiday texts, but I absolutely refuse to reach out. He has broken every promise he made to me, and I am finally feeling strong enough to distance myself. Through my mother, I found out he got a better job and was looking to stay there. I guess I wasn't needed anymore, so that's why I haven't gotten a phone call or text. And then, just yesterday, I found out he isn't working anymore because his car has finally become a paperweight, a 20-year-old car that he never took care of. My mother used to force him to get oil changes and basic maintenance, and now, without her there to annoy him into adulting, it finally died. At this point, I feel like either my uncle is going to help him with a vehicle, or he's going to try to move back. I will bet money he will try to move in with my father if he does return. If that's the case, I do feel they will both join forces to try and manipulate me into forgiving them and using me. My father. He has actually been trying to reach out. I have received multiple texts from him every holiday saying how much he loves me and will love me always and wishing me and Victor well. I also keep getting calls and silent voicemails from random numbers. My sister even met with him for the first time in years because my niece wanted to meet him. He tried again to justify not going to my wedding, and my sister told him that there was zero excuse. He should have gone to the ceremony at the very least. He kept trying to defend himself, but my sister kept shutting him down, saying he could have made at least a minimal effort. While I'm not close with my sister, I greatly appreciated her saying that for me. Overall, she said he behaved himself and was fine. I was actually doing really well at not checking the messages, but once in a while, my curiosity still gets the better of me. Victor gets mad at me when I check. He doesn't want me to get sucked in again with either my brother or father. He still plans on having a chat with my brother next time we see him. I do feel myself starting to feel bad. My anger just isn't as sharp anymore. But I'm holding strong, reminding myself that I seem to only be his daughter when it's convenient. And that, to me, isn't a father. But I'm still just a girl who wants her dad, and I am trying so hard not to fall back into his perpetual pit of assholery. Me. Not going to lie, I've been lonely. All of my friends disappeared after the wedding. I reach out to them, asking how they're doing, and get one-word answers back, which hurts. I've been trying to make new ones, but it's been hard. I spend most of my days either working at home online for our business or playing video games alone or with Victor. I love my husband, but sometimes I just want a girl day. My self-confidence has plummeted. I don't like what I see in the mirror anymore. We've been trying for a kid with zero luck, so that's taken a hit on my mental health as well. But I am actually going to my first therapy session next month, which I am incredibly excited about. So unfortunately, my saga isn't over. If something major happens, I'll definitely let you all know. Relevant comments. Commenter. Can you and Victor move away and make a fresh start? Make some new friends in a new place. Get away from the ghosts of your old life. It's good that you are starting therapy. I hope it helps you let go of what you're clinging to because it's strangling you and poisoning your life. Don't answer any calls or texts from your dad, ever again. Let him be dead to you. And go no contact with your brother for a while. It doesn't have to be permanent, just until he finally matures, if ever, and acknowledges how toxic your father is. I have friends who completely cut off their toxic families, and it was the best thing they could ever do. They have in-laws and chosen families. Good luck. Ops response. We already live about 1.5 hours from my friends and family, so I'm not worried about them coming. If my father thought the hour-long drive to my wedding was too much, I'm confident he won't make the drive to my home. He's had my address for over a year and hasn't done anything with it, not even a card or anything. No contact with my dad has been solid. I haven't spoken a word to him or texted him since he didn't show up to my wedding. Low contact with my brother is harder, but I've been sticking to it. If he wants to reach out, I'll answer, but I'm done trying. It's been peaceful. I do worry that if he comes back and I see him in person, I'll cave again. What makes me waver is that my chosen family has kind of left me. We were so close and would do anything for each other, but I no longer feel supported at all. They've been my friends for over 20 years, so it's been a lot to take in. Commenter 2. What do you think changed with your friends? It seems weird that they all dropped you after the wedding. Have you tried speaking to any of them and asking if something happened or if you somehow offended them? It may be a misunderstanding. Ops response. I have no idea. Maybe it's because I don't see them as often anymore? I have asked, and they just say they're busy. I haven't spoken to them often enough to have offended them. I still get invited to things, but I typically can't attend, which they say they completely understand. I was able to see one of them in October, and it was so nice, everything was fine. I think maybe they're just moving on to the next chapters of their lives, and for now, they just aren't taking me with them. Commenter 3. Wait, you're feeling lonely even though your friends are reaching out and inviting you to things, and you're declining? I'm not sure it's your friends who are dropping the ball on the friendship. Ops response. They invited me to one of their child's birthday parties in November and a barbecue in the summer. If they're having other gatherings, I'm unaware. I invite them to my place in May every year, but they all decline. Commenter 4. Do you talk too much about your family when you're with them? Ops response. I don't normally talk to them about my family at all. I'm just talking about it here as an outlet. I actually purposely try to be upbeat and positive around them because I know they're exhausted with kids and don't want to listen to my complaining, lol. I guess a lot of my negativity gets pent up, but writing about it here helps. Commenter 5. It completely sucks, But usually, being the child-free ones means you have to put in the time to drive to them. It's definitely unfair, but that's usually the way it goes. Op's response: yeah, I really should take a trip just to visit them. I just try to do as much as I can when I go there. Maybe when it gets warmer, they'll be more receptive. I just don't know why they don't answer messages anymore. At the very least, they could text, and we could talk that way. Op adds an edit to her post. At your recommendation, I did reach out again to my friends. I saw that they were playing a game together on Discord but hadn't invited me. I joined the chat and told them I missed them and was wondering if I had done anything wrong. They assured me that everything was fine and are now making time to talk to me more. So, I'm happy about that.
Story 6. I accidentally intentionally broke my stepdaughter's nose, and now life with my wife and stepdaughter might never be the same. Posted by you/prankuser2046. I know the title sounds bad, but please read and throw it away afterward, plus fake names. I, 38M, married Judd, 44F, a few years ago and acquired a stepdaughter, Abby, 14F, as a result. I started dating Judd when Abby was 8, met her when she was 9, and married Judd when she was 10. I'd say our relationship is okay. She doesn't act bratty toward me and respects me enough as her mom's husband. However, there is one glaring issue: her pranking nature. Abby loves to pull pranks. Some examples include hiding my car keys in a box with what looked like 100 dubs. I found them quickly because she failed to notice my keys had duct tape on them. Another time, she hid in the fridge, something I still find very weird, to scare the first person who opened it. Well, last Wednesday, I arrived home, and it seemed I was the only one there. Only my shoes were at the doorstep, and I even called out Judd's and Abby's names with no answer. This is somewhat normal, as Judd sometimes works late and Abby stays at school for extracurriculars. So, I played around with my dog, a German Shepherd and Husky mix, for anyone who might ask, for a bit and then decided to relieve myself. When I got to the bathroom, I noticed that the window cabinet was open. I thought nothing of it at first and unzipped my pants, but then I saw a shadow behind the shower curtain. I thought the worst and immediately punched the figure behind the curtain. Well, as everyone may have guessed from the title, it was Abby. She was making a prank video, and I hadn't noticed that she had propped her phone up on the bathroom cabinet with 2 cups. I'm not going to lie, I didn't hold back. I punched her as hard as I could. Her nose looked broken, and when I realized it, I flipped out, and so did she. After maybe 5 minutes of freaking out, I drove her to urgent care and informed Judd of the situation. Her nose was indeed broken and would need about 6 to 12 weeks to recover. Abby won't talk to me, and as for Judd, she thinks my actions may have been justified but also believes I should have approached the situation with more caution, though she has refused to elaborate on that. Relevant comments. Commenter: you punched someone. I don't need to read it to know you suck. Op's response: well, I thought she was a junkie who invaded my home, but okay. I'll be more cautious next time. Enlighten me, what steps should I take next time? Commenter 2: good lord. Abby's incredibly lucky, Op. It could easily have been a baseball bat instead of your fist, or worse. And if she pulls this kind of crap elsewhere, and since she loves to pull pranks, I assume she does, God only knows what could happen to her. I'm looking forward to Judd's enlightenment on what you should have done after calling out and confirming the house was empty, only to find someone hiding inside. From Judd's response to the incident, I suspect she enables Abby's pranking hobby and probably finds it cute and creative. It's not. Commenter 3: Op, it may be worth showing your wife this thread. She needs to understand exactly how dangerous your stepdaughter's pranks are becoming. Update 11 days later. Well, this blew up big time. Let's address a few things. Abby's pranking nature isn't just focused on me, she has pulled pranks on her friends, the neighbors, and at school. The school has called Judd several times about this, as they have resulted in mild vandalism. The refrigerator prank: she was 11 when that happened, not a grown teenager. It was a brand new and very large fridge that my uncle bought and showed off to everyone. She climbed in until he opened it again. Judd yelled at her, saying that she could have suffocated in there, and took her outside to scold her for a few hours. The video doesn't show the toilet at all, just the shower curtain. However, the issue still remains that this was a massive invasion of privacy. The video has been deleted, and Abby has admitted it was purely her fault. Now, the update. It's been a chaotic week. Judd still refused to elaborate on how the situation should have been handled. I showed her the post, and as a result, she did a complete 180. She suddenly thought it might be time to stage an intervention, and I agreed. We brought some of her friends, as well as my cousin's wife, Jess. Jess is an officer from another state, and Abby seems to respect her. In this intervention, we stated how we were each affected by her various pranks and how, in turn, they affected her. Jess also spoke about how many of these pranks border on criminal territory, meaning she could be arrested or face retaliation. It seemed to have gotten to her, and Abby cried a bit and promised to do better. When everyone else left, Jess stayed behind and brought to our attention a disciplinary camp that we could send her to. The program is 6 weeks long and involves group therapy, individual therapy, and constructive projects, whatever that means, and is held on a university campus. The program apparently has good reviews. Judd seems dead set on sending her to figure out her core problems. I'm a little hesitant about sending a kid away from home, but I'm the step-parent, so I have no say. Relevant comments. Commenter. Being sent away seems extreme. Have you looked into this program? Is it held at a religious college? She might end up abused at some of these types of teen rehabilitation camps or just exposed to kids who are worse. I realize it might not be your call, but I would suggest trying local therapy first, long before sending a kid away. Ops response. And I agree, sending a kid away from home will probably just damage them more. But Judd seems intent on dishing out the harshest punishment immediately, thinking that this will nip it in the bud. Or she doesn't want to be seen as an enabler. She changed her opinion really fast when I showed her the original post. Op adds an edit to his post. Okay, I swear Judd must be following my posts because now she's taking back what she said and is now thinking about doing what I and you fellow Redditors suggested in the first place, weekly therapy. So, we agreed that I'm going to find a therapist and front the bill for it since she didn't take this seriously in the first place. Commenter 2. Wait, why do you have to pay for her kid's therapy when she didn't take her behavior seriously? That doesn't make sense. Ops response. Because she doesn't know how to find therapists, she just wants to send Abby away. Commenter 3. Hasn't she ever heard of Google? Sounds like weaponized incompetence. Ops response. The program is free. Jess said that she could enroll Abby for free, which most definitely played a part in Judd wanting to send her there. Second update 7 months 2 weeks later. Well, it's been about 7 months, and there have been a few developments. Let's address some more things before getting into that. Up until recently, I've still been getting DMs asking why this brat is still in my house, why I'm friends with Jess, and why I named my wife Judd in my posts. I was drinking when I made my first post. I saved a draft and went back to it after sobering up for a few hours, fixing a bunch of grammatical mistakes, but clearly, some got overlooked, and it just stuck. I was planning on calling her Judy. Jess and I are not friends. She is married to my cousin, with whom I have a good relationship, as well as with their 2 daughters and Jess's daughter. Jess has a serious problem with boundaries. As for why Abby was still living with me, you have to understand, I, her stepfather, broke Abby's nose. If word got out, it would look really bad. I would be seen as an abuser and might have even been arrested. Several comments pointed out that I should have saved that video for my own safety. I was pretty much going insane at that point, and my wife thought nothing of it, believing I should have just let it go until I showed her my original post. Honestly, I wanted to keep the intervention we had small and not involve her friends because I felt they didn't need to know about it. I just wanted her grandparents and Jess to show up, but I was convinced otherwise. So, the update. We decided to send Abby to weekly therapy. We agreed that I would find and pay for it, and if it worked, my wife would reimburse me. It did work. Abby improved a lot, and she realized how much damage she had done and is working to improve things. She even started doing volunteer work, which I didn't think she would do. She has apologized profusely, realizing how disgusting her prank was. She also deleted her TikTok account, claiming that's where she got all the ideas from. We decided to get her a new smartphone for her birthday 3 months ago as a reward for the improvements she made. We had taken away all smart devices as punishment. I don't think I mentioned that before. As for me and my wife, I gave her an ultimatum. Since therapy worked for Abby, it was time for us to go to couples therapy, or we would separate. We had been having problems even before this whole incident, and now it kind of had to be forced. For the past 2 years, we've been living more like roommates, and her enabling behavior was finally causing things to fall apart. She reluctantly agreed. It ended up being short-lived. During our sessions, she talked about how I blow things out of proportion and that I went too far by posting the incident online. She revealed that she had been following my posts, which is why she changed her mind about the camp. Our therapist then asked us both if we loved each other. I was honest and said yes, but it was becoming difficult. My wife, on the other hand, said she was in love with the idea of me. I needed a minute to process if I had heard that right, and she went on about how I was apparently a catch. I was younger than her, had a stable job, and owned a house, and she thought my loyalty was a bonus. I don't know why, but I asked her if she had cheated on me, and she said no. But it didn't matter, she had just revealed that she settled for me. I filed for divorce 2 months ago. We had a prenup, so things are going smoothly, aside from her erroneously claiming some jewelry as hers. But my lawyer believes it should be finalized within 1 to 2 months. So, my soon-to-be ex-wife has moved out along with Abby. My dog misses them, she just sits by the door, waiting for hours for them to come back. My soon-to-be ex-wife is not happy about how things have progressed. She's been calling me a spineless bastard who couldn't just tolerate how things were and has been telling that to anyone who will listen. But behind closed doors, she's been blaming Abby for the divorce, claiming it was her behavior that caused it. I know this because she has been calling and texting me semi-regularly. Abby is living with her grandparents now because apparently, her mother can't deal with her. I actually liked my in-laws, they're really good people. They've apologized for their daughter's actions and even offered to reimburse me for Abby's therapy sessions. They told me they were going to take care of Abby because it seems her mother has finally lost it. I spoke with Abby and assured her that this wasn't her fault. Chances are, we were going to divorce regardless. She then told me that she didn't want me to leave and that I was the closest thing to a father she ever had. This surprised me. I never really saw myself as a parental figure for Abby, I only did the bare minimum. Outside of that, I just paid for school events, supplies, and would carve out some time for her, but I left it up to her if she wanted to spend time with me. I told her that maybe when she turns 18, we can pick up where we left off, but until then, I don't think we can see each other. Her mother would definitely try to keep her away from me, and honestly, I need some time away from Abby as well. Things are so quiet at home now, it's relaxing. So, there you go. I don't even care if my soon-to-be ex-wife finds this post. Relevant comments. Commenter. I'm 42 and single, but I'd rather be single than settle. Her lying about her feelings for you prevented you, during your relationship, from having the chance to find someone who truly loves you. It's the same with people who cheat, they're just keeping their victim from finding something better. Ops response. Therapy has been a godsend for me these past 2 months and has helped me process some of this stuff. Call it naivety, but maybe I was ignoring the red flags because my last serious relationship was when I was 25, and I did miss that time of my life. Commenter 2. I figured this was where this was headed. Good for you. You deserve better, Op. And congrats on being smart enough to get a prenup. Op's response. You know, when I brought up the prenup, she was hesitant and it took about 4 months to get her to sign it. I guess that alone should have screamed problems. Commenter 2. The whole if you love me, you will risk half your material possessions and money on the off chance that I am telling you the truth that I love you doesn't fly anymore. Anyone, man or woman, who gets married without a prenup is an idiot. You, sir, are not an idiot, but there are still lots of them out there. Commenter 3. That honestly sounds like you were leaving a massive crap show. One thing is the whole Abby craziness, but it makes sense, she's so unadjusted with a mom who thinks the idea of a person is enough. In general, I've heard a lot of my female friends say they're settling with their partners. I am a woman myself, and I've always found it strange that some women tend to see themselves as the better one in the relationship rather than as equals. It's a weird thing. But at least you're free now. Hopefully, there's someone out there who will love you for who you are, not just the idea of you. Congrats on getting out. And the prenup was at least a clever move. Remember to do that next time you decide to marry someone, you never really know which ones will turn back crap. Some of them are good at hiding it, sadly speaking from experience. Op's response. I don't think I will ever marry anyone again.